Let's go. What's up, y'all? Tonight we're covering Apocalypse Now. We're going to talk about the Redux version, and we're going to go back to the script. I'm glad y'all can join us tonight. Hope everybody had a good laborious day weekend, the laborious day holiday. And so we're going back to the script for Apocalypse. And I got this one for $1.99, right? For $1.99. It was after the Redux came out. It's from like 2000, 2001. So we're going to look at the script, and we're also going to be talking about everything related to, we get that. She my homeboy's here with me, y'all. We got a special guest tonight. And the dog just knocked over the Wi-Fi, and she's sitting on top of it like a pillow. So tonight, we are going to talk about Apocalypse Now, the movie, and we're going to be looking at the Phoenix Program, Doug Valentine. Thank you, Jeff. Appreciate you. Hope we have good levels tonight. We're going to be talking about, thank you. And we're going to be talking about the Hollow Men that's in the poem that Kurtz reads, Marlon Brando. What else? From Ritual to Romance, Jesse Weston. A little bit about Heart of Darkness, Joseph Conrad. We're going to be going back into that. And yeah, so hope y'all enjoy this. So we're going to be doing a total deep dive into Apocalypse Now. And just a disclaimer, this isn't really an objective analysis because this is my favorite movie of all time. I think Apocalypse Now is the greatest movie of all time. And the entire script, everything about the movie to me is perfect. But this isn't like a movie review. We're going to be going into a full analysis. And really my thesis statement about this movie is that Colonel Kurtz, Marlon Brando's character, represents the kind of apotheosis of what Doug Valentine goes into Colby's Phoenix program. So he is a Green Beret with a Montagnard Army operating without any sense of decent human conduct. Right, so where should we start? So let's see.
Saigon.
Yeah, Saigon. Saigon.
Shit.
Right. I'm still only in Saigon.
Saigon.
So the movie begins with, first of all, you notice in the movie that there's no beginning credits. The credits don't. First of all, the movie is like a loop.
Right.
It's like an eternal loop, right? Because the movie fades out and then it fades back in the same way. And the ending the beginning credits are the end credits. There are no credits at the beginning. And I think Coppola's purpose with that is that like the movie sort of stands on its own. And that he's saying remember Coppola's statement at the Cannes Film Festival. I mentioned this recently, but at the Cannes Film Festival, he says, they say, what was it like? What was it like making the movie? Is this a war movie? Is it an anti-war movie? And he says, this movie is not about Vietnam. It's not showing Vietnam. Our movie is Vietnam, right? We had access to too much money, too much equipment, and little by little we went insane. So yeah, we're also going to be talking about Hearts of Darkness, which is the making of Apocalypse Now, which won an Emmy for Best Documentary in 1991.
Yep.
And it was directed by Coppola's wife. So the movie is directed by Francis Ford Coppola. It's written by Coppola, John Milius. John Milius is the guy who wrote, what did John Milius write? Conan? John Milius? He wrote Conan the Barbarian, didn't he?
Yeah, he did.
Yeah.
He did do that, and he was known for the Dirty Harry series. First two.
That's right.
Dirty Harry.
That's right. And also, when you watch interviews with John Milius, it's obvious, and this is stated, it's obvious that he is the inspiration for Walter Sobchak in The Big Lebowski. He looks exactly like John Goodman. He's wearing the field jacket. He's obsessed with guns.
Yeah.
And that's why he talks about Nam. And you took him.
Yeah, and I
right?
think he's also a character in American Graffiti. But
right.
We can talk about
right.
that
Okay,
later.
so that's a good point because in the introduction to this book, there's an introduction by Coppola to this screenplay, And he says, at the very beginning, he says, I recall first hearing about the idea that was to become the script for Apocalypse Now from John Milius and George Lucas. So, look, people watching this, you if you're like obsessed with Apocalypse Now, like I am, I guess you'll already know all this stuff, so forgive me. But if you're new to it, then you might find some of this stuff interesting. So John Milius, so we talked about John Milius, and he originally wanted to call the film, The Psychedelic Surfer, right? And his idea was, and remember this is in Full Metal Jacket. He says he wanted the idea of like a Vietnam killer who like also wore a peace sign. And you remember that scene in Full Metal Jacket? Yeah. What the fuck is this? No, it's the different guy. He's like, you want to explain to me why you have a peace sign next to a Born to Kill on your helmet? And he's like, something about the duality of man, sir. The duality of what? Right. So he wanted to call it the Psychedelic Surfer. And then he eventually changed the name to Apocalypse Now. And George Lucas was originally supposed to direct. Shouts out to David Satterfield out there. Shouts out to our homeboy. That's right. Yes, thank you, David. Yes, Oliver Stone wrote Conan the Barbarian. Was it John Milius who directed it?
He had something to do with Conan,
didn't he?
Yeah, there was something with Conan.
Yeah. Okay. So anyway, so George Lucas was supposed to direct Apocalypse Now, and that's why the character. That is why. What's his name? Harrison Ford's character in. Harrison Ford actually is in Apocalypse Now. He is the colonel from I Corps who gives the intelligence dossier to Willard in the scene, sort of not the first scene, but after he's taken to the little hut or whatever, which is like a taste. It's like a little, it's home. Like they got elks on the wall, and he's like,
well, if you can eat those shrimp,
you'll never have to prove your courage in any other way. Right? So Harrison Ford is named Lucas, and the general character is named R. Corman. So he's Roger Corman because I think Coppola studied under Corman, or he had something to do with Roger Corman in his first studio jobs. And what else? So Coppola. What's interesting is Coppola was at UCLA Film School at the same time as Jim Morrison, and so Jim Morrison was specifically used. The Doors were specifically used at the opening of the film because they play. The film opens with a shot of, a still of palm trees, right, and then we get the napalm. We get the first napalm, and we get the opening of the end, and that's interesting because it's not the studio version of the end. It's actually the second cut of the end that the Doors. I think the Doors did 2 recordings of it, but it's the second one, and it's the one where he actually goes into the like pure Oedipal song lyrics. He doesn't just they cut that out for the album version. Where he's, cursing and stuff. And then we get a shot of Willard, who is played by Martin Sheen. And Martin Sheen was not the original casting for Apocalypse Now. It was actually, he plays the part of Marlowe in Heart of Darkness, who is like the protagonist. He's the protagonist, he's the narrator, he's the speaker in the film. We see it through his perspective, through his point of view. And they actually cast Harvey Keitel, and they did weeks of filming, but then they decided, the studio and Coppola decided that he wasn't right for the part, and they actually cut it, and they had to reshoot it with Martin Sheen. They chose Keitel at first because he was recommended from Martin Scorsese, and because Keitel had lived this, he was a Marine in Nam, and so then they reshot it with Martin Sheen. And what's interesting about Martin Sheen is he was like 37 or 38 years old, and he had a heart attack on set in the opening scene. Right, he's in his bedroom, and he's drinking. Martin Sheen was an alcoholic, and he said, I wasn't really fit for this part. Smoking 3 packs of Marlboros a day. Yeah, you were doing. It was all kinds of stuff going on, and then he had a heart attack, and I think when he broke the. You notice that at the beginning he breaks the mirror, right? So he's doing his little Tai Chi routine because the film, like you mentioned, The film is bookended by the Doors song "The End." It begins and ends the film. The film is also like on a loop, and also there's one part at the beginning where Martin Sheen says, "This is my mission, and for my sins they gave me one. I can't tell my own story without telling Kurtz's, so his story is my own," which means that the perspective is all of it is in situ. It's in the present, except for that one bit where he's obviously talking from the future. Right. So he's looking back on his story. So it's pretty subtle. So we know he's going to live, first of all. And then also the character of Marlowe or Willard, who is pursuing a renegade Green Beret colonel up the Nung River into, they don't say Cambodia, but it's into Cambodia.
They do.
They do?
Oh, yeah.
They say it?
We're not supposed to be in Cambodia. And he says, that's classified.
That's right.
Yeah.
It's no longer classified, is it?
We'll
So,
get to that.
yeah. So I wonder, at the time, right? It's like, no, we're in Nam. We're not in Cambodia or Laos or Thailand or any of these other places, but we are.
Right.
No, these cities are, these places are getting incinerated on their own. Right? We got nothing to do with that.
Nothing.
So, but his mission is actually he's actually just repeating a mission that a former guy was sent on an identical mission, and that is this guy, Colby. Colby is also SOG, right? He's Special Operations Group, MACV-SOG, Special Forces, and it turns out that Colby, who's played by Scott Glenn is kind of a character actor. He's in a ton of movies, right? And one of his best roles that I mentioned recently was in that movie Buffalo Soldiers, which came out in 2000. It came out right before the Big 9 event. And it's got Joaquin, shouts out to Joaquin. It's got Joaquin Phoenix, who's running a black market like heroin operation at their West German military base in the 80s. And then they killed the movie because it didn't. They killed it because the Big 9 happened. Bad timing. And you know what they released instead of that? Black Knight with Martin Lawrence. They were like, we need some laughs in September 2001. Oh. So, but anyway, so he is taking the place of Colby. Notice he's Colby, right? They don't specifically state this, and I haven't heard Coppola state it, but it seems obvious to me that he would be named after William Colby, the CIA director who is responsible for running the Phoenix Program, which Kurtz is a part of, and also the mirror breaking and the whole Tai.
We're back to that.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm jumping around a lot. The Tai Chi routine is he does that at the beginning, breaking the mirror, and then Colby does that at the end in the compound, right? Which is like odd because even in the script it says he's doing some sort of martial arts routine. But anyway, okay, so I'll try to keep on track here for you guys. All right. So it says, let's see, he'd been a UCLA film school student. John Milius was telling unbelievable stories about many of his surfer friends who'd returned from Vietnam and the action there. John wanted to write a screenplay about it, alternately titled The Psychedelic Soldier or Apocalypse Now. Let's see, it was... they were deeply into Conrad's Heart of Darkness. Joseph Conrad. We won't go too much into Heart of Darkness because that's a whole. There's so many elements in this film, but Heart of Darkness was published around 1902 and is kind of an indictment of the colonial system in Africa and
Congo.
That's right, specifically in the Congo. Yeah, with Leopold. And he goes into the Heart of Darkness specifically is Leopold's private backyard playground. Leopold never went there, but it's his private colony, separate from Belgian Congo. And he, the character Marlowe is sent on a mission to basically to find Kurtz, who is this ivory trader, and who's gone. They say he's gone native, and we'll get into the differences between him and Brando and how they're portrayed. But he's supposed to, essentially, he's surrounded in a compound with heads. They worship him like a pagan god and terminate with extreme prejudice. Jerry's only line in the film, and Jerry is the in the script he's called the civilian, but he is or they say he's probably, in the script it says he's probably Department of Defense, but he's CIA.
He's a spook.
He's a spook.
There's no way. There's no way he's not.
Yeah, and they got him, the guy that they got to play him. They were like, who can we get to play this sort of gray man, CIA kind of average looking guy? Let's get Jerry over here. He's the assistant director. So that's what they got. And they were like, you got one line, terminate with extreme prejudice. But it's such a great line.
Oh, it's good.
Right? He
delivers it well.
He hands him the Marlboro.
Yeah.
Because he doesn't want to smoke when he first gets in there. And then he gives him a cigarette.
He's also extremely hungover.
He is.
He's sweating.
Yeah.
Nobody else is sweating in the scene. He's out of it.
Yeah.
I mean, he's just kind of waking up. He's being thrown into this thing.
Yeah. Yeah, he's so fucked up. He's like, because he says, what does he say? Every time I wake up, I think I'm back in the jungle. Every minute that I'm sitting here, Charlie gets weaker.
He's disappointed he's not in the jungle.
He's disappointed, yes. Yeah, he says the walls get a little tighter, right? And so he and then they come in and they say, "Are you Captain Willard?" What did they say? Are you Captain Willard? I Corps Intelligence, and he says, "What are the charges?" Charges? There's no charges, sir. Oh, we got a dead one here. They put him in the shower. You gonna shut the door, buddy? Right. Okay.
There's blood all over his bed.
Yeah.
It's
yeah.
a mess.
No,
He's a mess.
The general even.
He's a mess.
Yeah.
And this is the guy they're sending in to go deep
Right.
cover, kill a colonel of the military.
Right. Right.
Yeah,
but
that's how it starts.
But they would expect that, right?
It's
Wouldn't they expect that because he's they ask him about his previous mission when he gets to the place. Did you not assassinate two government tax collectors? I'm unaware of any such mission, nor would I be disposed to speak of such if one did in fact exist. They're like, good, right answer. This is our guy. What happened to your hand there, Captain?
Fishing on R&R.
Yeah, fishing on R&R.
They repeat it too. They're like, okay.
Yeah, because the general loves that.
Yeah.
He's like, that's my type of thing. This is my guy. But when he has that first cigarette,
he's not afraid to lie to me.
That's right.
At all.
That's right.
This is the guy we need.
Yeah. Because when they give him the mission, they say, you understand that this mission never did exist and never will it exist. And the thing about this is that this movie is like do you remember the first time you saw this movie?
Yeah, but I was young.
What were you?
I was 12 in my parents' basement.
Oh, really? Was it on HBO or something?
Yeah, well, my brother had gotten a copy, and he's older than I am, so it was like, oh, I'm watching this for whatever reason.
Yeah.
Like, he just heard about it, so I'm watching it, and I'm just like...
Yeah, you saw it way before I did.
Well, I mean, it was eye-opening.
Yeah, I saw it, the first time I saw it was, we read Heart of Darkness in Mr. Wood's British literature class, and we were sitting in the auditorium, and it was after school athletics, and he said, okay, listen, everybody's going to come. You're going to watch this movie. It's 3 hours. And I went, got some McD's with Ryan Kowalski. We sat in the back of the auditorium, and he was basically like, don't talk. Don't talk during the movie. And then, like, from the first second of the movie, I did not talk. I didn't say a word until probably 4 hours after the movie. Because
the doors locked us in.
Yes, the doors. Yeah,
the
absolutely.
doors locked me in.
Yeah, the doors lock
Being
you
a
in.
Kid and like that was
absolutely. Yeah, the doors lock you into the movie, and like I don't know. One thing is that I realized right away when watching it is that I don't know. It seems like this movie is like every war movie, like. Came from this movie in a way. Every the voiceovers, the monologues, it's so cliche now when you hear things like they are in this movie, right? I mean, even the Saigon shit, right? I'm still only back in Saigon. So shouts out to everybody out there. Thanks for watching. And please make sure that you smash that like. Everybody share the stream. And if you want to donate and support me on the channel, please make sure that you that you click the links that my mods are dropping throughout, that you look at the video description, look at the channel description, and you can support me, and you can help me to get a video camera. I'm trying to get a video camera, something high res, you guys.
Proper lighting wouldn't be bad.
That's
either.
right, some proper lighting, so I don't. Yeah. Ron said it.
Skeletor.
You look kind of ghost-like in Skeletor. Yeah, I don't know if Yeah, I'm better looking in person. Right? Let's say that. Okay. Anyway, so he says, let's see. Just back to the intro real quick. Coppola says, I was writing The Conversation. Remember he did The Conversation with Gene Hackman? And there was a lot of the conversation's about the NSA. And a lot of cross-fertilization going on, to say the least. And before I knew it, the description of John's script to be included a soldier named Willard going upriver to find a renegade officer named Kurtz. They were interested in the Conrad story. Okay, so then it talks about how Coppola says, I took a big chance. I was the only one actually working out of their group of friends. George Lucas, Coppola, Scorsese was also one of their friends. Spielberg was involved with them. Jim Morrison, of course, was there, but he was dead by this point. I left my employment at Warner Brothers, sold my house. Because he had an office at Warner Brothers because he had written the screenplay for Patton, which was like 1970. And then he did The Godfather and Godfather Part 2. And he says, I sold my house and a small summer house and used the money to buy sound mixing equipment and a new kind of editing machine from Europe. And our whole group made a mass exodus from Hollywood to forge our futures together in San Francisco. Warner Brothers sponsored American Zoetrope, that's his production office or studio, for a short time. And with the money that it made available, this is interesting, I doled out fees to all so that John could write Apocalypse Now and George Lucas, could make THX 1138. And their friend Carol could write an original screenplay he called Vesuvia. Then Warner Brothers rejected their entire slate of projects, and later, when The Godfather became a success, demanded that I return all the development money it had laid out for the rejected projects, threatening to file an action to prevent me from making The Godfather Part 2. This was paid, and somehow I ended up owning all the scripts that had been written, including Apocalypse Now. I called George and let him know that I owned the script and did he want to direct it. George said he was about to undertake a new science fiction project, so that's about 1976 or 77 when he was doing Star Wars. And he wouldn't be able to get to Apocalypse Now for well over a year. Subsequently, I called John Milius and asked if he wanted to direct it, and John was also disposed on another project. They wanted to film it outside of L.A. Jeff says Orson Welles is the first to try to make it. Orson Welles did try to make a film of Heart of Darkness. I think he did a radio production, but he also wanted to do Heart of Darkness way earlier. And it's interesting about Heart of Darkness because Coppola talks about using the script. A lot of it was improvised because of the actors that they chose, and we'll get to Brando in a second. But he ended up just kind of ditching the script for a while and using just notes from Heart of Darkness as his sort of guide. And one thing that's weird is that this sort of sets the scene for like what happened later in the production, because they got a contract with I guess it was Ferdinand Marcos. Was it Ferdinand Marcos, the president of the Philippines? So they got a contract with Marcos and the Philippine Army, and they were financed for a long the film took like 3 years to make. And this is the subject of Hearts of Darkness, the documentary. This production was plagued with problems throughout. So first of all, they had to move it to the Philippines. Second, they had Harvey Keitel. They had to fire him as their lead actor, and they had to get Martin Sheen.
Then had a heart attack.
Then Martin Sheen had a heart attack on set.
And then the monsoons came.
And when he punched that mirror and fractures his mind, he got a real bad cut. He was like bleeding out, and Coppola's like, keep rolling, this is beautiful, which is actually later in the film. He puts himself in the film in one of the scenes. They looked for different actors for the different roles. They wanted Jack Nicholson. They wanted Al Pacino to play Willard. obviously because of Apocalypse Now. I'm sure the studio had words to say about that. But then finally, the one that they wanted throughout, the one guy that they wanted was Brando, right? And they finally got Brando. But at this point, like, I guess people who know film, like, will remember this, but people kind of forget it now that, like, I mean, this is Brando's best role, in my opinion. This is because one of the things it does is.
Well, man, that's a bold.
What?
That's why I came here, for bold statements like that.
What do you think?
On the waterfront,
Superman's dad.
Superman's dad, yes.
Don Juan DeMarco.
Yeah, I mean, so many. It's hard to pick, but as far as like impact, for only being on like what 5 minutes,
yeah,
huge impact.
Well, it's perfect.
No denying that. No denying.
Yeah. It's perfect.
He's what you've been waiting for. There's
Right.
a big build-up to see this guy.
Yeah.
Is he going to live up to expectations? And then, boom, Marlon puts up that performance.
Yeah.
And he does.
Well,
so, in that regard,
should we just talk about Brando for a minute?
No, I mean,
let's get into it.
I don't
Let's
want to talk about my love for Brando.
So
it's embarrassing.
So what happens with Brando is, at this point in the 70s, I mean, he had done The Godfather, but he was. Remember that when he won the Oscar for The Godfather, and he didn't accept it. He sent Sacheen Littlefeather, who was an actress. He sent her up there instead, and this was a big fuck you to the Academy, right?
Yeah.
And of course, he was blacklisted again. Throughout the 60s, Brando's career like took a complete nosedive.
He's the original doesn't give a shit actor.
Yes.
I mean, if you're going to look at actors that really just didn't care what the establishment
Right.
or whatever had to say about him.
I mean,
was it.
He's also like the diva of all time.
Oh, he also became that too.
Of all
right?
time. I mean, so what he did was
We won't even get into Island of Dr. Moreau, but all right, keep going. I mean,
Jay's covered Island of Dr. Moreau at Jay's Analysis. Shouts out to our boy Jay over there. Shouts out to all the homies here, and shouts out to DPH and Tristan, and also shouts out to everybody who was at the event in Orlando this weekend. Saw the pics. You guys had fun. Shouts out to Mixky out there, our homeboy. Hope you guys had fun and everybody's back home. But what happened with Brando was they wanted him real bad, and they were like, look, and he was like, all right, yeah, I'll come out and do it. And they were like, he was like, all right, was it a 30-minute drive? And they were like, no, you got to go to the Philippines. And he was like, there's no way I'm going. Oh, he was in Tahiti by that point. And anyway, right? Because Brando bought that when he filmed Mutiny on the Bounty, the girl, I think it was the girl that's in the scene with him in Mutiny on the Bounty, the love interest, is the one that he married. And then they were like, all right, are you going to go back to Hollywood and do your career? And he was like, no, I'm going to stay here in French Polynesia. I'm never leaving. I love Tahiti. And he just bought the island. And that's why they did the Island of Dr. Moreau. They were like, we'll come to you and do this. But so anyway, they got him for the Philippines, but he was like way late in the production. He was like one of the last things. And by that point, the production had already been. There was the typhoon that destroyed the set.
Yeah.
It destroyed all the cameras. I don't think it didn't destroy the dailies or the film because they still had that. All of the supporting cast was on drugs. Sam Bottoms, Lance the Surfer, was like on speed. Dennis Hopper had his own thing going on, man. They wanted Dennis Hopper originally, I think, to play not Willard, but somebody else in the film. And they were like, you want to come to the Philippines? And he was like, I can't tell the difference between real life and the movies, man. And he showed up, and Dennis Hopper told a story on Dick Cavett about when he met Brando for the first time. And they were like, did you guys get along? And he was like, no, not at all. They were at a dinner. Oh, Tropic Thunder.
Whoa. Number one, I thought I was going to be on the Tropic Thunder podcast, so this is like a little different for me. I thought we were going to have some fun. But okay.
So
Apocalypse Now.
Yeah, Maddie says, wasn't Brando also in a Skittles relationship with Richard Pryor? Yes, he was. Yes.
I mean, Sure.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, that's
I'll believe it.
Yes,
Yeah, for
he
sure.
was. He was.
Yeah.
So, one thing in Tropic Thunder though is remember when they have like their first week of shooting rap, rap party for the first week,
Yeah.
and they it's like $1 billion production, and Tom Cruise is like, get control of your actors. Remember, where's the grip? And he has the grip, punch him in the face. That is because they had that on Apocalypse Now. That's what was going on. They had these enormous parties, and Dennis Hopper showed up to one of them, and apparently Brando did not take a liking to him.
It's also the Philippines, though, right?
Yeah.
Well, things are cheap in the Philippines. It's not the same thing.
Yes, but considering the probable money,
They give a lot of work to people in the Philippines.
considering the probable money laundering aspect of the film, it's like, oh, this $2 million rap party only costs $20 in the Philippines. They're like, no, it costs the same, right? So the studio stopped financing.
I mean, you got to talk about the amount of weight Coppola must have had at that point in his career.
Yeah.
I mean, I want to light an entire jungle on fire.
That's true.
I mean, the scope of this movie is so crazy.
It is huge. It's
It
enormous.
is like one of the biggest movies of all time, even
Yeah.
by today's standards. I think it puts Avatar to shame.
Yeah.
When you talk about what they were able to do
Right.
and how big it was.
Right. And it's interesting, a take on this movie, because I think Coppola was right in the sense that, it's not an any film about military or military action ends up being a propaganda thing, right?
Absolutely.
Even if it's, look at Saving Private Ryan, right? It's it's the anti-war movie, but it ends up boosting recruitment, and the other side is depicted as this as subhuman or whatever, and not human, and that's purposeful. But on the other hand, it's I think that one of the things in this is that it is a really revelatory film, and we'll get to the French plantation scene in a little while, because there's a lot in that like you were saying earlier, it's like exposition, but it gives a good indication of what they're trying to accomplish with the film. And even Brando's whole character is about exposing the realities of what the war is and what it could be and what it's supposed to be.
Right.
And Chef, right? Chef's like, we came all this way just to kill one of our fucking guys. That's great, man. That's great. I'll kill the fuck. Remember?
Yeah. I mean, it's also interesting about these war movies. This is filmed just years after the war's over.
Yes.
We're not talking about them going back a couple
Right.
decades. They filmed this very shortly
Yeah.
after the war was officially over.
Right. Yeah, a lot of people compare this one to The Deer Hunter, and The Deer Hunter is a completely different movie and was filmed earlier, not that much earlier. I think it was 76.
I'll fly back for that.
Yeah, for the deer.
Oh, absolutely.
For the fly back from California for the deer.
Wow! Are you kidding me? Christopher Walken? I get to break out
Yeah.
my Christopher Walken? Yeah, I'll do that. All right, so I don't think
yes.
we've made it past the first 5 minutes.
We
of the movie,
we
and
haven't made it past the first 5
Okay,
minutes.
let's get rocking here.
Okay, so one more thing. They decided to hired another screenwriter who was credited, which is Michael Herr. Michael Herr is the author of The Things They Carried, the great Vietnam book, and he just did the voiceovers. And usually in a film where you have voiceover,
It's a waste of it's lazy.
It's lazy
filmmaking.
It's lazy, and it's usually serves as exposition. It's like okay, you can imagine when they do voiceovers, it's like, we got this film and it's great, and then the studio is like, look, we got to add something. We
need to hold the hand of the audience
Exactly.
to get to where we are.
Listen, these dum-dums are going to be eating popcorn, and we need to explain to them, this is the Vietnam War, and this is what happened. Except for in this film, this is like the king of all voiceover films.
I can't think of one better.
Definitely not. And so that's pretty cool. I think it's cool that they got him to. I'm sorry, Dispatches. You're right. Says Sean. It was Dispatch. Who wrote The Things They Carried? What is? Anyway, it's Michael Herr's Dispatches. Yeah, you're right. So much information, man.
Oh God.
So Willard is in the hotel room. He's in Saigon we see the exterior shot of, to Doe Street or whatever outside, which we talked about in Tim O'Brien did the things they carry. Thank you, Sean. High IQ audience. We talked about that in the Yusef Kumanyaka stream about Vietnam War poetry. And anyway, then he goes to the I-Corps hut, and he is asked to do this mission where he's to terminate with extreme prejudice one of their own, Walter E. Kurtz. Walter Kurtz is a highly decorated Green Beret colonel.
He's the best of the best.
He's the best. He's the absolute
He's the best of the best. He
Yeah.
could have become a general, but he decided to fight in the war on the ground.
Yes. He was a decent man, a humanitarian man.
A moral man.
A moral man. And he was being groomed for the top spot, Joint Chiefs of Staff. But what happened was he was over there with his command, and he wrote a report for the Joint Chiefs. Seems they didn't dig what he had to tell them. And the report that he wrote is called Counterinsurgency. Commitment is called Commitment and Counterinsurgency. And this is by Walter Kurtz. And so this is on page 85 of the script. And I'll just read this excerpt because it's part of the voiceover. I'll go forward and then I'll come back to where we were. But it's called Commitment and Counterinsurgency. And this is what the Pentagon decided was reason enough to not let him advance. And then we'll get into what happened after that. But Commitment and Counterinsurgency is clearly based on Frank Kitson's low-intensity operations. I've talked about that before. Low-intensity operations and low-intensity warfare was a book written, published in 1960, military book by this guy, Brigadier Frank Kitson, who's still alive. And he wrote it after the war in Malaya, and then after he was responsible for running the war on the Mau Mau's in Kenya for the British. And what he came up with was essentially a new form of counterinsurgency, counterterrorism, and guerrilla warfare. So when the British went to Malaya, basically they couldn't make any headway. They couldn't win because the natives were too dug in, right? And that ties in with what's going on in this, because when the French talk about it, it's because the colonials wanted essentially the rubber tree, the rubber plantations, and they were trying to keep hold of them and keep hold of their resources. And so what he decided to do, especially in Kenya, was he said, okay, all of the black market and the street gangs, we can use those for our own purposes. So the generals, through Frank Kitson and then through MI6, basically co-opted the street gangs and used them to form sort of anti-protest groups and street violence groups. And through this, they then had their sort of a counter army, and through the use of organized terror, ended up fighting the war. And then the same happened in Kenya, and then that's what happened in Northern Ireland. And go see our Northern Ireland stream. We talked about this, and how they co-opted the loyalists. So in other words, it's when we talk about collusion, that's what it is. And then this was co-opted by Colby, and this was part of the Phoenix program, where they decided to use counter-terror in a way that would sort of demoralize the population through a surgical strike, absolute terror. This, like, when people talk about hearts and minds, like winning the hearts and minds, this is like a Rand Corporation like slogan for people. People picture hearts and minds as like, oh, the military is over there and they're fighting the war, but they're going to drop leaflets on the population that say like, oh, if you go with us, then you can have McDonald's and Radio Free Europe. And that, I'm sure, is a thing. But what Colby says, and this is in Phoenix, in Doug Valentine's Phoenix program, is that hearts and minds is actually shattering the hearts and minds of the population, so they are demoralized into thinking they cannot win. And that is what Kurtz wants to accomplish. That's what he says in his commitment and counterinsurgency thing. He says, as long as our officers and troops perform tours of duty limited to 1 year, they will remain dilettantes in war. Of course he says that. They will remain dilettantes. He's a highly educated, right?
Dilettantes. Dilettantes.
Yes.
I have no reason to trust dilettantes.
He's an Ivy League educated, third generation West Point, top of the heap guy, right? They will remain dilettantes in war and tourists in Vietnam. As long as cold beer, hot food, rock and roll, and all the other amenities remain expected norm, our conduct of the war will gain only impotence. We need fewer men and better. If they were committed, this war could be won with a fourth of our present force. Now, why would the Pentagon and the Joint Chiefs not like this?
It doesn't look good on TV.
Well, that's yes, absolutely right.
You know, I mean, he's talking about. We'll get to it, but chopping off limbs of people,
right?
You know, that just doesn't look good for TV.
Right.
And at that point, there was a lot of TV involved.
It also doesn't look good because one thing that's mentioned in the film that you pointed out was the later on in the compound at the end of the film, Kurtz is reading an article about the Rand Corporation. And Rand Corporation, who ran the think tank responsible for running the Vietnam War, is in cahoots, obviously, with the military-industrial complex, and does not like the idea of, wait, fewer men? You mean fewer bullets, fewer guns, fewer
Right.
missiles, fewer things that our buddies at the heads of these things are going to have to make? No, we don't want that. We want more. We want more of this, right?
Yeah, I mean, the whole thing was kind of fucked, right?
Yes,
I mean,
yeah. So, all right. So where were we?
we're still at minute 7, I think. of the
Yeah, we're
movie.
like a minute into the movie.
It's
So
3 hours long. Dangerfield. 3 hours.
it is. So he gets his mission. For his sins, they gave him one. What the hell else was they going to do? He says.
Yeah.
So they give him. So he is a Willard is an Army Ranger with SOG, and they put him with a Navy PT boat, right? The PT boat is run by the captain and then chef, who is a New Orleans chef.
Saucier.
He's a saucier. He's a saucier out of New
He
Orleans.
wants you to know that.
That's right. That's right. And Lance the surfer, who's a pro surfer, who'll come up. We'll talk about him later. And then and who else? Larry Fishburne. Lawrence Fishburne's first role.
Oh my God.
Right.
What was his name? Clean.
Yeah, Mr. Clean. Yeah, chef calls him Bubber.
Yeah.
Right.
Clean.
And he is a
Lawrence Fishburne's best role?
best role. Yes.
Best role.
Yeah. Yeah. He's 17. He's from some South Bronx shithole, and I think the what is it? I think the something from Vietnam really put the hook in him or something.
Yeah, it's like the open air or something like that.
Yeah,
Really,
yeah.
like, put the screws to him or something.
That's right, the screws to him, yeah. So they put him with this PT boat full of, regular Americans or whatever, and they give him a classified mission. He's got to go up the Nung River all the way into classified territory, which ends up being Cambodia. But the other guys don't know about this. And they don't know his mission. They don't know he's going to assassinate American Special Forces Colonel. And then what happens is, it's essentially, like you were pointing out, the heart of the Dante's Inferno aspect of the film, because they wind up the river, and it is circular in a way, and as they get further upriver, they run into a series of adventures, and they meet various characters.
The thing is, they run into the shit. Mm-hmm. And then, like, a couple miles up, all of a sudden there's a USO.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
There's a USO party,
Yes.
which is like, okay, you're having this party, like, up this river?
Yeah, that's interesting. And that's really interesting, because that shows you the like absurd farcical nature of the whole thing, right? Because they, like you said, they run into the shit right away. They're in the shit, and then they what's this? And all of a sudden they come around the bend, and it's illuminated, and they have, like, everyone's there,
Yeah,
Right.
and they're very aware that it's weird, crazy.
Yes.
It's awesome.
Yeah. And that's when it's a USO. So they run into a USO tour, and instead of Bob Hope, it's Bill. What's his name? The San Francisco guy, the Winterland guy. Bill Graham. It's Bill Graham.
Yeah.
Is it Bill Graham?
Billy Graham?
Billy Graham.
Like,
come on
Club?
down to the altar. No, that's not Ken Copeland. What's the 700 Club guy's name?
I thought his name was Billy
Not
Graham.
Ken Copeland.
I thought his name was Billy Graham.
There's Billy Graham, but there's Bill Graham.
I don't understand.
Anyway, they run into Bill Graham,
I'm lost.
who is the promoter / pimp
Yes.
of the
Well, he becomes a pimp
of the Playboy
in the Redux
bunnies.
edition.
He does,
He's a pimp.
and this is pretty revelatory because this is Candy Jones territory, right? Candy Jones was there's a book about this lady called Candy Jones, who describes how she was like a lipstick model, and then she was contracted by Bob Hope, and how she was like a Manchurian candidate. She was an MK Ultra victim.
Right.
They programmed this model.
Tell them.
Yeah, so they know about it, right? You guys know about Candy Jones, right? She was a MK Ultra victim, and they programmed her to one of the experiments was, can we give can we program her with secret launch codes or coded missions? We'll send her to a general in, I think, Japan, and when she gets there, she will give the classified information. She'll come back. We'll give her trigger phrases. We'll deprogram her, and then she'll have no memory of it. And there's been a number of. I mean, Jay's gone into this in depth, right, about Playboy models and Lex Wexner and Victoria's Secret models, and all these people used as sort of go-betweens from military or intelligence or trafficking. And I mean, it's weird that Pamela Anderson is the only person who's been allowed to see Julian Assange in Belmarsh prison. Isn't that weird?
Is it weird or is it awesome?
No.
I mean, if you're gonna pick one person,
I'm sure
and
it
you
was
grew up
awesome
in the
for
90s.
him.
If you grew up in the 90s, and
Right.
Yeah.
right.
That's my one sneak in to the camera.
Right. He was like, "You mean the star of Barbed Wire?"
Ooh,
Right?
Don't get me started.
Remember that movie?
That's cinematography, masterpiece.
So they run into these Playboy bunnies, and of course they go to the depot, and they're trying to get diesel or whatever, and that's when Larry Fishburne says Kawasaki, Sukiyaki. They've got motorcycles, they've got all this stuff, and then they're given like VIP seats for the show, and then Willard says
Only because
he gets pissed.
Martin
at that guy.
Sheen's guy
He grabs
him
that guy.
by the collar and throws him down
Yeah.
a little bit, even
Yeah.
though he's a foot shorter
Right.
than the guy.
Well, because the guy's being you get the tension right away in the scene because he's like we need some and the guy's like, where are you going? I need a destination. He's like, that's classified. Yeah, I need a destination. Hey buddy, put that down. Grabs him, pulls him over.
Pay attention to me.
Yeah, pay
I got
attention.
a classified mission.
That's right.
Which is like, okay.
Yeah, so he gives him the whiskey. Hey, no hard feelings, right?
Right.
And then they get box seats for the show, and that's when Martin Sheen has that great line about Charlie didn't get much R&R.
Oh no, he never got a USO.
Yeah. He never got much USO. Right. His idea of R&R was what is it? Some.
I think he said there was only one-way ticket.
Yeah,
It was
his
something
idea
about
of good R&R was cold rice and a little rat meat.
Right.
He had only one way home: death or victory.
Right.
Right. Which is like
Yeah,
that.
he had two ways to get home.
That's right.
Death or victory.
That's right. That's that like Spartan mentality, right? Come back with your shield or on it. And it's weird because while the girls are dancing, you see like the Vietnamese on the other side of the fence, and one of them is like eating rice. Right? And one of them's like hanging on looking. And so the USO show turns into a disaster. It turns into like this Dante Inferno-esque.
It gets cut short because the officers or the people in attendance start like
they storm the stage, and you know what they're trying to do.
Yeah.
And so Bill Graham does this Nixon.
Well, they want a taste for America, I guess.
Right.
I think that would be
a literal taste. Yes.
Yeah, but I think
and
beyond
it's
literal, but
also Chef thinks he knows one of the bunnies.
Oh no!
Right?
He's written to them before.
Yes. He's
written them. She didn't write back.
Yeah.
And he says the C word.
Yeah.
He calls her the C word for
That's
not
right.
writing back to
That's
him,
right.
which is just
And
ridiculous.
one of the other guys, Larry Fishburne,
But it makes them so human. It makes them
Yeah.
like that aspect of it really like puts it like, oh, these are just American kids.
Yes.
These are regular American guys thrown in like this weird.
Yeah, they're grunts. Yeah.
Yeah.
And they in the Redux version, they go into it a little bit more. It's
Oh
either,
my God. The
it's
Redux
either-
version. Can we talk about why?
Yeah.
Like, so we're talking about the Redux version now.
Yeah.
Which we should kind of focus on like why certain cuts were like there and why the
Yes.
Redux version exists.
Yeah. So why is that? Why did he release it?
Why did they go into in depth? Like when originally filming it, why did they go in depth for them having this very bizarre 30-minute long playtime with the bunnies? And the pimp, which you referred to, he trades 2 barrels of oil, which
yes.
they need.
Yes.
They had just gotten that oil.
Yes, they had. That was the whole point of
them
going to the
stopping
depot.
Yeah. They had just gotten that oil, and he trades it away. And I think part of it is because Martin Sheen's character, Captain Willard, is recognizing that like things are falling apart.
Yeah.
And he needs these kids to, like,
He needs them to get up.
they need a release.
Yeah.
They need something.
He's got to boost morale. He needs them to get upriver. He can't do it without them. And when they arrive, the part that they cut out for the original is this whole scene with the like a reunion with the bunnies upriver. And we see that when they took off in the helicopter, the guys are like hanging off and they fall down and it's like kind of hellish. And then later on, when they get upriver, we see that the helicopter has run out of fuel and they've landed. And that they're in this, like, absolute mire. They're in a shithole. And that is the first time, I think, when they get to a place, they're getting closer to Kurtz. And this is the first place where there are a bunch of soldiers there. And Martin Sheen asks, who's the commanding officer? And there's a guy, like, with a chicken.
Oh, he's got a little puppy.
He has a puppy also?
He does. Because he goes, woof, 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 woof.
That's right. Yes.
Yeah.
And he says, like, who's your commanding officer? And the guy's like, they're like, we don't have one. He says he stepped on a landmine months ago.
Yeah, 2
Right.
months ago, these
Right.
guys are just doing what they're told, but they're not being told by anybody what to do.
Yeah, they're in this, like, shitty mire. And we see the helicopter with the Playboy Bunny emblem on it. And then he's ushered into a tent by Bill Graham, who's in there, who pimps out the bunnies in exchange for 2 barrels of diesel fuel. And so then he tells them, you got some time. It's for everybody. And then, of course, what does the guy say?
Oh, are there any mamas on
Are
there?
there,
Are there any mamas
he
in
said,
there?
Any what?
And he's like, what?
He's like, what? He's like,
And
I'll
he's
stay
like,
with the boat.
yeah.
So of course, Chef and Lance go and they have their time with the bunnies, who, by the way, are completely out of it. They are like, they're in a war zone, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think you're led to believe that they're just hopped up on drugs the whole time, just to deal with what they're dealing with.
I think they're on drugs, and they are like, how long have they been there? They've been there long enough for the dead guy. So Lance is okay.
Oh,
so the
wow.
girl that Lance gets, one of the girls says, "I was the bird girl at Busch Gardens." Shouts out to Busch Gardens.
Shouts out to Busch Gardens.
Yeah, VA.
Very beautiful.
Yeah,
there,
she's the
if you wanna
bird
visit.
girl. And then the other girl is like totally.
Can we talk
out of
about
it.
Busch Gardens?
Yeah, let's talk about.
It's
Busch
very
Gardens.
clean.
Yeah.
As a guy who's been around the world, the country, different amusement parks.
As a guy who's been around the world at Busch Gardens,
Busch
right?
Gardens.
I've been to Germany world.
Yeah, German world. Very
Yeah.
clean. Great rides.
Yeah.
Go Busch Gardens.
No, I was talking about.
Good shout out.
I was.
You think that like bumped up their
That bumped up
the amount of people that went
for
there?
sure, for sure,
Yeah, big time.
No, I was talking the other day to somebody about Busch Gardens, and I was like randomly, and I was like, "Hey, did you guys ever did you ever ride on the Big Bad Wolf?" And
Ooh.
they'd never heard of the Big Bad Wolf, but The Big Bad Wolf was a ride that they had in the 80s and 90s, and I told this person the story that the Big Bad Wolf was shut down because there were a number of deaths on this roller coaster. And in fact, my cousin told me a story when I was like 9.
R.I.P.
And my cousin told me a story when he was 9 that he was on the Big Bad Wolf and he watched somebody ahead of him get decapitated on the ride.
What?
Yes, and
That
so
is not a thing.
So listen. The person I told this story to said bullshit. No way. I said Google it.
Now Busch Gardens is going to be after us now.
Well, the Big Bad Wolf is defunct.
Okay,
Right?
sorry.
So they looked it up, and somebody was decapitated. Now I don't know if my cousin actually witnessed this, but somebody was decapitated. The story he told me was he was on the ride and it goes around a curve, and somebody tried to stand up, and their head went clean off, and there was a shower of blood. Now I don't know if that happened.
I would think that's what happened.
But
when your head gets shorn off.
But 3 people
Three
people did die on this ride, though. 3. It wasn't the first one that shut it down. It wasn't the second one. It took 3
Busch Gardens,
people.
it was a great ride. It was a great ride. I have no problem with it. I wish it was still around.
So that is a defunct ride.
All right.
But listen,
back to Busch Gardens.
PKD has everything over Busch Gardens.
All right. Getting back to
Days of Thunder ride.
Oh, and the girl,
All right.
the bird thing.
Yeah, the bird.
So
thing.
that's her big thing. She was like, I used to be the bird girl at Busch Gardens.
Yes.
Why do you think they threw that in there? What's with the birds? Is there symbolism there? Is there what the fuck is up with that?
Well, it would be interesting if there were butterflies because she would be a monarch. But instead, I think the birds are. I mean, the birds are like parrots and stuff. But it makes sense that. I mean, she is a sparrow, and you know what a sparrow is?
Yeah.
Remember that movie Red Sparrow?
Yep.
Yeah. So the sparrow is the actual term for a model or a ballerina or somebody in the entertainment industry who's chosen as either an intelligence asset or an actual spy. And she sort of serves that function because she's working for the military. But in a sense that, I don't know, she's a cage bird. She's certainly a cage bird. She's locked in this helicopter. She can't get out of her thing. But what ends up happening is they do their thing with the bunnies and
off camera.
Yeah, off camera. And while that's happening, one of them knocks over something, and there's a coffin in the room, and the coffin opens, and a dead body falls out.
Ruins the mood.
Yeah. Well, but.
Maybe not.
But it doesn't, actually, because that's when that happens, which is weird.
Yeah.
Because that's...
And it's a guy.
It is.
It's a white guy, too.
Yeah, I think it's probably... You think it's the commanding officer who stepped on the landmine?
Most of him was intact.
Yeah, we didn't see his leg, but yeah, that would have...
Saw a little bit of him.
Yeah, we saw
Too
a little
much
bit.
of him.
Was he tied up?
No.
I feel like his hands were tied.
There was something weird with his hands.
Yeah.
I don't know if they were tied or not.
Anyway, okay, so he falls out, and then they get back on the boat, and then that whole scene was cut out. But then we see that in the Redux version. And then what happens is they get to the next scene the plantation scene?
Yeah.
The French plantation scene? They get to the sampan boat where they annihilate the people on the boat.
Well, do they get above the bridge before the plantation? Which is also confusing. Because I thought the bridge was the marker of like where Vietnam ended and where Cambodia started.
Yeah.
But I think they get through the bridge, which is also like, who's in charge here?
Oh, they get to the bridge first.
Yeah.
Yes, because
we got to talk about that scene.
You're right. Okay, so they get to the bridge, and they make a remark about it's the captain. He makes a remark about we don't have to go any further because we build this bridge every day, and Charlie blows it up the next day, and this whole thing is pointless. And Willard says, just get back on the fucking... He just says, get back on the boat, we're going. And,
he asks, like, what direction are we going?
Right.
Because I think at that point, the captain of the boat is like, oh, this guy must want to turn around now.
Right.
Because this whole situation's fucked.
Right.
And he's like, you know where we got to go.
And when that's when they get there, and the guy meets them.
Great line delivery.
The guy meets them with an update.
He takes a while. He's like taking off his shirt. He's like, you know where we have to go.
they get there, and the guy meets them he says he's been waiting for 3 weeks for them because he's got the updated dossier. Isn't that
He says it's taking you a few days longer than I thought.
Okay, right.
But I got some package information for you. And he's like, thank God you're here.
Yes.
And he was like, why? He was like, because I can get the hell out of here.
Yeah, and he says, you're in the asshole of the world, and you don't even know it yet.
Yeah.
And what he actually gives him
Which is an interesting take on the heart of darkness.
Yes, and
you're
also
in the asshole of the world.
That's right.
As opposed to the heart of darkness.
It's like the boat. The bridge is also, what's the part in Dante's Inferno? We covered Dante's Inferno. They get to the bridge. And they're past the city of Dis, but they get to the bridge that crosses the abyss. So they're about to cross the abyss into the. It's not only the heart of darkness; it's the heart of darkness, because now they're in Cambodia.
Right.
And
asshole of the world. That's
right. And one reason why the guy's waiting for them is because he has information that obviously back in the I Corps they didn't want to give him at the start, because then he probably wouldn't have gone on the mission. And the information is, there was a guy we sent before this.
Similar mission.
Identical mission.
Yeah. To kill Kurtz.
Yes.
We thought he was dead.
Right.
And I think that's what it was. They just found out.
Yeah.
They didn't tell him before because they just found out because he'd sent a letter home.
You don't think they knew that already?
No, I think they found out that he had sent that letter home.
I think they had that at the start.
They had already told his wife that he was MIA, and then he tried to send that letter that said...
What did
it say?
Yeah, they told his wife he was MIA because they didn't hear from him.
Yeah. So anyway, they send this guy on a similar mission a couple months before.
Uh-huh. Yeah, Colby.
He disappears. Colby, who is played by...
Scott Glenn.
Awesome.
Yeah, he's really good. He says
no lines.
Not a word. He's amazing.
No lines. Best role?
Maybe. Because when you first, we'll get to when you see Colby.
Yeah,
and what he's like.
See Colby, but they talk about it, and it's like, oh, we thought he was MIA. We even sent his wife he's just missing in action.
Yes.
Sorry, oops, on our part. But then they intercepted this letter that he had sent to them, which said.
It says, sell the house, sell the car, sell the kids. I'm never coming home.
Yeah.
And we learned that Colby has joined Kurtz, right? And that's also interesting because earlier in the film, when they first get, not when they first get on, but the captain says to Willard, I took a man up here months ago on a similar mission. Didn't hear back from him. Heard he shot himself in the head, he says.
Yeah.
That's got to be Colby.
But that's who he thought. But it probably was him.
Right. Yeah. So he gets this dossier on Colby and what's happened with Kurtz. And that starts to clue Willard into the fact that, he's got this dossier on this guy, on Kurtz, who is, one thing that we didn't mention was that he, when he wrote the report that they didn't dig, right, he decided to go back and go to jump school. And he says he was 38 years old. Why the fuck would he do that? I was 19 years old when I did it, and it damn near killed me. So then what happens is, this is in the lead up to the film, before Kurtz even gets this mission, is that he goes to jump school. He's a Green Beret. He joins Special Forces. He joins Special Operations Group. They give him a command to go make an incursion into Nam. He goes into Cambodia, and one thing. So what the Green Berets do, their mission is, they're trained. They're different from Rangers. They're trained to go into a native population and to train the natives with an army, so they can have a native a groundswell. And so what's happened with Kurtz?
People that know the terrain,
right?
And
yes,
everything.
And this is real life. So Kurtz in this aspect is based on this guy, Colonel Tony Poe. And there's a couple of interviews with him on YouTube. You can still see. What happened with him was, first of all, he looks exactly like Kurtz. He's this big ass bald guy. He was a Special Operations Green Beret colonel. And what he did was he went into Cambodia, and then he formed a Montagnard Army, and he ended up marrying a local girl, and he stayed. He never left. and he was one of the guys that formed the this thing called Ears for Beers, which is where, like, you remember in Universal Soldier, Dolph Lundgren like has the ear necklace.
How could one forget that? I mean,
So
that was the best part of
right.
Universal Soldier.
So this was like, so Doug Valentine talks about this in his interviews with Colby and a bunch of other people in Phoenix Program.
In a million years, I wouldn't have thought that Universal Soldier
Right?
would have come up on this podcast.
Well, that's because
It makes sense.
Yeah, that's because
It
Universal
makes sense.
Soldier, even though it's in the future and all this stuff, they have programmed assassins. Right?
Is it in the future?
It is. Yeah, because they wear body mods. I guess it could be in the. I mean, that's now.
I think it was in the present.
1997,
Yeah.
Kosovo. I mean, an alternate.
I got to rewatch this movie now.
Yeah, we gotta
which
rewatch
I never thought
Universal
I would
Soldier.
ever again, but now I do.
So what happens is, like, Dolph Lundgren, Tony Poe, Colonel Kurtz, or even Judge Holden in Blood Meridian are all sort of the same vein. What they do is, Tony Poe really did this in real life. He said, we need to get those numbers up. We need to get those numbers up, and we need to report to the Phoenix Program operations, and Rand is handling all the numbers. And basically, we need to show military command and then the public that we have that we're getting casualties. And the way we can prove that to command is with either heads or ears. So for every ear you bring back, you get a case of beer. Ears for beers. And we see that later on when we get to the compound, we see that Colby has scalps. He's got scalps on his shotgun. Did you see that? Mm-hmm. And where were we? So we're at the bridge.
We're at the bridge.
And
the bridge goes sideways. The bridge is
Yes.
just like a hotly contested zone.
yes.
Nobody's in charge, apparently. Because
With-
when Willard goes,
Yeah.
he's like hunkered down.
Yeah.
And he's like,
With VC like right there. You can hear him.
Yeah.
And the guys are all in the water. You'll get what you deserve, says the guy in the water. And that's the only line in the movie I don't like. I don't like how they include that guy. And anyway, there's a guy in the bush. We VC, and he's shouting at the Americans. And then Willard goes into this little trench. There's a bunch of dudes sitting there listening to Hendrix. It sort of gives all angles of like what was happening in the war, because we get these guys who are sitting there chilling, they're smoking weed or whatever, listening to Hendrix. Willard says, "Who's in charge here? Hey, do you know who's in charge here?" And there's this guy Roach, who has a grenade launcher. They say get the Roach. Roach.
No. The first comment is, who's in charge here?
Ain't you? Yeah.
Ain't you?
Yeah.
Because he's a captain.
Yeah.
And all these other guys are just sitting there.
They're right. Yeah. So then he says, "Get the Roach, man." So the Roach comes out, and the Roach is he's a bad
sniper with a bazooka.
He's a bad motherfucker.
Is it a bazooka or is it
It's
a grenade launcher?
It's a grenade launcher with tiger stripes on it.
Yeah, with tiger stripes.
Yeah, and
which may lead back down to like why tiger stripes? Did it go back to
never get out of the boat?
Never get out of the boat.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Yeah. Fucking tiger, man. Yeah.
It's just a different scene. We're already past that.
Oh wait,
scene.
we skipped Kilgore altogether.
We skipped that whole thing.
All right, we skipped.
We can't go back to it.
Yeah.
I don't think we can.
Well, we got to go back to Kilgore. We'll come back to him in a minute. Because he's a key guy in this. So then the guy shoots the VC and he motherfucker, right? He kills him, and then they get back on the boat and then they go upriver, and we got to go back to Kilgore.
Oh no! But that was the important scene, though. When he's talking to the Roach, and he's like, so this is the third time he's asked somebody, or fourth time he's asked somebody, like, who's in charge?
Yeah.
And this time he asks, as opposed to like, who's in charge? He asks, do you know who's in charge?
Yeah.
And the guy just looks at him and goes, yeah.
That's right. Yeah.
And then just walks off.
DJ says, "I'm starting to wonder how well BLA knows this movie. His favorite movie. This is my fucking favorite movie, man. Listen, there's so much in this movie. It's hard to keep all this information when you're going over a movie you've seen.
Prior to this thing, I asked
seen a
if this was
bazillion
going to be the
times.
longest
Yes.
dream you've had?
We could spend.
Like, I don't know. I was like, the hours. It's 3 hours long.
We could spend 3 hours talking about one scene in this movie, but there's so many aspects of it. It's hard to keep track of it.
Saying at that time, like, who is in charge?
Right.
Do you know who's in charge?
Yeah.
And the guy says, like, yeah,
and that's it.
And what does that mean? I mean, he's saying some deep shit right there
he
without
is.
anything.
Yeah.
He knows who's in charge. Nobody. And also, like...
Well, a lot of the movie is... The way that it's written is like... There's a lot of this... It's hard to explain, but like a lot of it is written like it's... there's a lot that's said that is unsaid. There's a lot of...
Oh, yeah.
The silence is...
Oh, my God.
Sort of speak volumes. And... Like, even when... Okay, so we got to go back to Kilgore. All right, so...
Is there any other... There's no war movie with as much symbolism.
No.
As
there's no movie with
right?
as much as this.
Yeah, there isn't.
There isn't.
I mean, you could go...
Yeah.
Like you said, we could take a deep dive in like 5 minutes
of
this movie and cover 3 hours.
The tiger stripes are also important because Willard is in tiger stripe camouflage. He's in a different cami set than the other guys are in olive drab, right? Because they're grunts.
Right.
But he's special forces, so he's in a different set of camis. And
by the way, would you put Martin Sheen into the shit in his condition?
I don't know.
I mean, you're like, oh, this guy's gonna take care of us in the shit.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, I'm gonna take this scrawny, 5'6" guy that's gonna.
Yeah, well. I mean, I think that's a good question because.
But I would say this. So in Trainspotting, when they were hiring Begbie.
Yeah.
Like, I forgot his name, the guy.
Robert Carlyle.
Yeah, Robert Carlyle. They originally wanted him for different parts, but or he thought would be better for different parts. And they're like, oh, we want you as Begbie.
Yeah.
And he was like, oh, isn't Begbie a little bit bigger?
Yeah.
Blah, blah.
Yeah.
And Danny Boyle was like, yeah, but small psychos are the best
That's
psychos.
right. No, that's true.
Small psychos are the best psychos.
Yeah, that's true because Martin Sheen is kind of inconspicuous, first of all.
Yeah.
He
could go on. Yeah, he could go off and murder somebody
look,
without people noticing.
Yeah, Scott Glenn looks the part.
Yeah.
He looks like the guy that would do this, but his psychology, his psyche, his mentality obviously wasn't up for it. And Martin Sheen, on the other hand, accomplishes the mission. And Sheen has already proven himself, right? He already assassinated those two
we'll get
guys.
to it. But I think Scott Glenn should have had one line in this movie. At least one.
Well,
it could have been like a really important line. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like, just saying something very...
but there's no room for it. And he did have lines, but they were written. Right?
But they were written?
Yeah, they were written. Those are his lines, right? So... Sell the house, sell the kids.
Yeah,
I'm never coming home.
Line?
That's his line.
I mean, okay.
But it's important that he doesn't speak, right?
Well, no one does in that whole.
Because
okay, we'll get
because you don't speak to him, man. You don't talk to him. You listen to him.
Right. We got to get there though.
Yeah. Okay. So let's get to Kilgore.
Oh no, we're getting past the. So we're now.
We got to go back to Kilgore. We got to because Kilgore is key in this.
All right.
Because he's like the first person that they come across, and that sets the scene for like the way that Vietnam is run in a sense. So they get to this place upriver. This is going back a little bit, and they need their boat transported from one side to another or something like that.
We completely skipped.
We totally
Duval?
skipped it. Yeah, we skipped Duval. So we're gonna go back to Duval.
Also, the only actor that was nominated.
He was
the only one.
Yeah, he was. He was nominated for Best Supporting
13 minutes
Actor.
of screen time.
Yeah.
Nominated for Best Supporting Actor.
Yeah.
Didn't get it.
What do you mean, Harry? Lung Dung Whopper. We can't say the rest of that line.
Didn't get it, but it was amazing.
Yeah, we can't
Rewatching it recently.
Yeah.
Like, that guy. Like,
yeah, he's
all
incredible.
that shit is going on in the background, which is actually happening.
Yes.
Like, there are explosions.
It is actually
shit happening.
Yes.
Like, that shit's happening.
Yeah.
And he's just still as a motherfucker.
Yeah,
like,
so Kilgore
it's
is kind of like a Patton character because he carries an ivory-handled pistol. He's a cavalry colonel. He's got the yellow yellow like sash or whatever. He's wearing the cavalry hat, but he's air cav. And so what he says about him is he says Bill Kilgore was one of those guys who knew he wasn't going to get so much as a scratch, right? He had this weird light about him. And the way that he acts in the film is like totally in line with that. There are explosions going off, and like you said, like there are actual explosions. There's actually helicopters. They're napalming shit or whatever.
Yeah.
And he's standing. Remember the scene where they're like a landmine goes off next to him and he doesn't flinch and he's just
unfazed by all of it.
He's totally unfazed.
And then, so my favorite scene is when there's a Charlie on the ground.
That's a great.
He's holding his guts in.
Yes.
By a pan.
Yeah.
Or whatever, like a pot lid.
He said, "You drink patty
he was
water."
like, this guy will.
Anybody who can hold his guts in, take water from my canteen anytime, right?
Yeah.
And
then
then
it was like, oh,
the guy's like, Lance the surface here. He throws the water on the ground. Where? Right?
Yeah. He just completely walks away from it because he's so obsessed with it.
Yeah.
And that's another thing we got to talk about, the Redux edition. Why Captain Willard, the guy that's going up on the boat, steals his surfboard.
Right.
Because they cut that out.
They cut that out, I'm glad they did cut that out.
I like it because it kind of ingratiates him with the boat he's on.
Yes.
So he actually gets attached to those characters.
You know that's the one scene where Martin Sheen smiles?
Yeah.
They get back
he's
on
laughing.
the boat.
He's laughing. He's like...
yeah, they cut that out. I think it was probably because of that smile that they cut it out.
Really?
Yes.
Right.
Yeah, they're like, this guy, he can't... This guy's on a mission. He can't...
I thought it was great.
I
thought
it
it
was
was...
these fucking guys or whatever.
Because I thought at the time, like, this is a guy that loves chaos. And he's creating it on his own terms.
Yes.
Right? Like, he's just like, I'm going to steal this surfboard and see what the fuck happens.
Yeah.
And,
6 foot peak! Ha ha!
And the fact that he's got his guys going around with a recorded message saying, like, I love my surfboard.
I can pick that boat up and put it down anywhere you like, young captain.
Yeah, but he's circling. He has his guys looking for his surfboard.
Yeah. With a pre-recorded message. Yeah.
I love my surfboard. Lance, you know how much it takes for you to get a good surfboard?
Yeah, so they
so ridiculous.
So Willard says that Kilgore tried to make a little place. He tried to make a taste of home. He choppered in the steaks and the beer,
which all made it worse.
And he says that he loved his men. Right? They're all there. They are like totally loyal to Kilgore. He's sitting there. He's got like a surf shirt on or whatever. They're at like a beach party. And then Willard says, oh, we got this mission. He's like, oh, I forgot you were here, right? This guy's just such a badass, right? And he's like smoking a cigarette in his little cigarette holder. And then the guy says, that's Charlie's point. That's a little Harry. What do you mean Harry? It's Harry, sir. And what they say is basically like, you got to take this guy's boat. This is the mission. He's giving you orders back from the command. You got to, the air cav has to pick up the PT boat and drop it at Charlie's Point. And Charlie's Point is where there's a heavily defended VC position, right?
With a school.
But they've got machine guns, there's a bridge, they've got all this stuff. So they're like, oh look, we can't just drop it there, it's too much. And he's like, no, we're air cav, we can take it anywhere you like. And so the plan is they get the plan together right away.
Oh, no.
He says, we're going to chop her up. They all get going.
No, he's only excited about it because somebody told him there's a
6 foot peak.
There's 6 foot peaks there.
Yeah.
He's like, you didn't tell me that.
Yeah.
We're going tomorrow.
Yes. So, that's
like, oh my
that's
God.
Kilgore's inspiration for going there is that it's a good place to surf.
Also, we missed the prime opportunity to see Robert Duvall on a surfboard. It never happened.
That's true.
And I think it should have happened.
Being
him terrible
in the Redux,
like having him being really bad at it, would have been awesome.
In the Redux, because there are 2 other surfers there, but Lance is like he's like the star. He's like an actual star surfer. And in the Redux, he makes the 2 guys go out and surf while the bombs are dropping in the water. Yeah, and one guy falls off the surfboard.
Yeah.
So
it was like skeet surfing in Top Secret.
Top Secret.
We'll get to that later.
Yeah. So they pick up the boat and they head in, and this is the famous scene where, remember they reference this in, they reference it in Jarhead. They show it in The Beach. Remember in Leo's The Beach? This is the scene they always show, which is where the choppers are coming in, and it's like a lot of helicopters. This is why the production is expensive.
Flight of the Valkyries.
Yeah, and
they've Ride of the Valkyries.
They've got Flight of the Valkyries playing, and the Valkyrie. This is from Wagner, and the Valkyrie is like, these are the daughters of Odin, who fly over the battlefield to pick up the dead Vikings to take them to Valhalla, right? And so we have the helicopters coming in playing Flight of the Valkyries, and they're playing it on loudspeakers. And this is like the shock and awe aspect of the film, where they come in and they immediately start annihilating Charlie's Point. One of the guys in this, did you notice? I mean, you noticed, but one of the guys in it is Gunny from Full Metal Jacket. He's one of the pilots.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he says, well, we can't say what he says, but when they annihilate the place, they go in, they blow up the bridge, they're shooting all the people, and then a VC woman comes out with a grenade in her hat and like throws it in the helicopter, blows it up, and that contained one of the wounded. And Kilgore, one of Kilgore's lines in that's important because he says, I want my wounded out. I want my men in 15 minutes. I want my men out. So he's there. Like, this is why his men love him. And Full Metal Jacket's Gunny is one of the pilots. Yeah, that's it. Arlie Ermy.
Well, I think that's the thing, right? Like, is people love him, and that's the whole theme of the story, right? Like this thing where, like, you mean well, but you're also he's also throwing these people in extreme harm.
Yes.
He's throwing people in extreme harm because he wants to do something.
Yeah.
But at the same time, when they get hurt, it'll help them.
Right.
And it's just like this dichotomy about that, right?
Right.
Like, that's just like none of it makes sense.
It doesn't. And I think that speaks to one of the scenes that comes up after the bridge, which is where Lance compares it to Disneyland, because that's a pretty revelatory line. Okay, I'll get to that one in a second. But what happens is they annihilate the village, they drop the PT boat down, and then we have the scene that's cut from the original that's in the Redux, which is where, like, Lance steals the surfboard. They're trying to get the surfboard back. It's just this chaos. It's absurd, right? And then that's when they go and they get off the boat, and they're trying to find mangoes. There's a little bit of characterization here. Chef talks about how, he's a saucier back in New Orleans.
Right.
Just like in Tropic Thunder. I was a saucier back in San Antone, right? Yeah. And that's when the tiger jumps out. So we have this, I don't know.
The tiger in the Redux edition, like, it looks like a real tiger.
It does, yeah.
That thing looks...
So what's the deal with that? The tiger is the tiger, is it just nature? Is the tiger Kurtz?
Yeah, I mean, once again, you could take it however you want it. You know, it's one of those things where it's just like, and him ripping his shirt off afterwards, just like, fuck this, like, I can't take it anymore, like, whatever, like, that's
fucking tiger, man. They're wasting all their ammo, just shooting blindly into the foliage, which I guess represents.
And
then one version of Nam in a sense, right?
So
which is just shooting blindly into the foliage.
Blindly cutting into the foliage to cutting to where the captain of the boat needs to pull over that vessel.
Yes, that's like the worst. That's the worst scene.
But so
it's the worst scene in the film. In the sense that
heartbreaking.
Yeah, it is, because what happens is they pull over a sampan full of Vietnamese, like a Vietnamese family, and Willard is like, we got a mission, we got to keep going, and the chef insists on boarding the boat and looking for weapons or whatever. They look, and one of them makes a move, and then Larry Fishburne like annihilates the family, and then one of the girls, and they find a puppy, right?
Oh.
So we got the tiger versus the puppy,
Right.
which is interesting, because we've got like a predator versus like this innocence. It's innocence in Vietnam, right?
Yeah, totally.
And they Lance takes the puppy. Give me that fucking puppy. He takes the puppy. And then Willard boards the ship and shoots the lady in the head.
Oh, we got to take
Right.
her back to.
That's
gives
right.
An acronym that I'm not familiar with.
We got to take her back. We got to save her, even though they're the ones who shot her and they board her. And that also
he just kills her because he was like, I need to get on my mission.
Right.
You can't go on this way.
well that also plays into what
And
Kurtz
he was like,
says.
these kids are never going to look at me the same
That's
way.
right, but that's what plays into Kurtz, right? That's Kurtz's whole thing, because Kurtz is like, look, we can't. If you want to have you can't have it both ways, right? War is
We're either going to do this or we're not.
That's right.
There's no middle ground.
Right.
Yeah.
And so and obviously, we're speaking to this is purposeful. It's not like, oh, we're going to get into this, this war and it's going to be chaotic and it's always going to, it's going to be like that. But you can't have it both ways where you have this, war of like, okay, so it's like when they get to the French plantation scene and they're like, you're fighting over the biggest nothing of all time. Because the reason, or at least the stated reason, is like, oh, we need to go to this place because of the domino theory, right? Which is just the biggest bullshit. If this place falls, then the rest of Southeast Asia is going to fall. And so we're gonna go into this place that we have nothing, we have it.
And also, who cared?
Right.
What were they going to do?
Right. Yeah, it's just total bullshit. And so we're going to go in and, we're going to have this, we're going to mix a humanitarian mission with this war mission. Whereas Kurtz's whole MO is like, war is going to be the last result, but if you want it, you're going to send in a guy like me and I'm going to take care of it, right?
Yeah, we're going to finish it.
Right. And I'm not saying that's good or bad. I'm just saying that's what's in the film, right? And I think what's interesting is that in the one scene where Lance, they get the mail, and Chef says, Charles Miller Manson killed people in protest, man, far out. And then Lance, you notice that this is right before Chef dies. Lance gets his letter, and it talks about Disneyland, and he says, Disneyland, it's here. It really is here. And I think it's obviously one of, again, another absurd line in the film, right? And it's funny, but it plays into the fact that they're in this sort of playground, and in the larger aspect, especially when Kurtz talks about Vietnam, as he actually mentions Rand Corporation. And remember when Jay talked about Rand Corporation and Epcot Center? Rand Corporation funded Epcot Center, and one of the things was like the psychological operation, the Psy-War aspect of Epcot Center as a testing ground for looking at behavior, right?
Oh man,
the way people behave.
You got me entertained now.
Okay. So what Michael Aquino talks about in Psy-War, Michael Aquino, the NSA guy who was Temple of Set. Michael Aquino was an NSA colonel and talks about how Vietnam is essentially he was responsible for a Psy-War in Vietnam, and how Vietnam exists as kind of a testing ground for, it exists as a number of different things. But number one, it's a MIC, military industrial complex. We're going to flex our muscles, and we're in an interwar period. We're in a counterinsurgency period. It's a proxy war, and we're gonna use up a bunch of weapons and missiles, and we're going to get money and all that stuff. But it's also data collection, and it's a testing ground for how we can bring this sort of stuff back home. We're making war on a civilian population, and we're going to look at how they form a counterinsurgency that we remember the French plantation scene. The guy talks about, here, let me find it in the script. When they get there, this was cut out of the original cut, and it was put back into the Redux version. The guy says, yeah,
it was their introduction to the evolution of the war
Right,
itself.
right.
The French occupied Vietnam.
yes,
The French got kicked out of Vietnam.
right.
It actually built
Dien
up.
Bien Phu, right.
It built up what would become the Viet Cong.
Yes, and the family at the French plantation, who's full of, they have like their whole like stay behind private army there.
Yeah, and they're French and they're very loud and very dramatic.
Yes, and they
like,
say
way too dramatic. Like,
yeah,
what? You have a guest there and you're just yelling at her. And there's
Well,
a guy with a.
the kid is
what
reading
that thing?
Baudelaire.
What is it? Is it an accordion?
Yes, and he starts playing.
He just keeps playing.
He starts playing like Yankee Doodle Dance.
He does. At
Spangled
one point,
Banner.
he plays a Star Spangled
Yeah,
Banner at one
and
point.
they throw him out of the room, right?
But he's just like the most annoying character. None
Right.
of it made any sense in
Well-
that part.
well,
Like,
here's-
I'm glad they cut it out.
It makes
to be
sense
honest.
because Willard said, one of them says, yeah, but why the fuck are you guys still here? And the guy says, basically, he says, we made this place. We're here because we've been here for all this time, and
70 years.
He even mentions Ordo ab Chao. He mentions we created order out of chaos in the place because we run this plantation. We've always been here. This is ours.
He says the Vietnamese were nothing.
That's right. And
Before we got here.
That's right. And he says, we made all this stuff, and we at least are fighting for something because we have family here. We're fighting for our home plantation. Whereas you guys are fighting for the biggest nothing of all time. And then the guy says, this is pretty interesting. The old uncle says, the Americans in 1945, after the Japanese War, your President Roosevelt didn't want the French people to stay in Indochina, so your Americans implant the Viet Minh. Willard says, what's he mean? Yeah, that's true. The Viet Cong were invented by the Americans. And now you take the French place and the Viet Minh fight you. And what can you do? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. This is the whole, the enemy of our enemy is our friends thing that continuously happens. This is like with the Mujahideen, fast forward 40 years, right? We fund Bin Laden and fund the guys fighting the insurgency against the Soviets.
But it wasn't that. It was like we wanted, like, the whole deal with the 1945 pact among countries was like, hey, give up all your territories.
Uh-huh.
You know, like, just stop it already.
Well, it's interesting to
And then the French were like, no.
Well, it's
we're not
interesting
gonna
to
do that.
consider.
And then basically it gave people, people heard that Americans were like, oh, let them become their own country, and it didn't happen.
Well, it's interesting
And
to
they got
consider,
upset
like,
that,
what would the Americans, what are the natural resources? Like, if they were going to stay, if we were going to go there because we were going to take all the natural, like, if, for instance, in Afghanistan, right? Okay, were you going to control the opium crop and the uranium mines and whatever else you were there for, if that's the purpose? So what is it in Vietnam? The rubber plantations?
I had no idea why the French were there.
Well, they were
at
there.
that point.
They were
Maybe
there for the
because of
rubber. Yeah, they were there for the rubber. But I guess the opium, the Golden Triangle plays
Maybe
into
a little
it.
bit of
You
that.
want to control the opium population, and which is interesting because in the French plantation scene, the other two revelatory things are that there's a girl there, the daughter, the woman who sexes Willard, right?
Yeah,
and
she's a widower from
That's
this
right.
war.
Yes, and she says after dinner, "Oh, would you? I noticed you didn't drink your wine. I don't drink wine, but I'd like some cognac." Right? He says, and
but I don't want some now.
Yeah, but I don't want some now.
He's trying to stay sober for that because he knows he's
That's right.
huge alcoholic.
Yes,
and he's like,
yeah,
got to maintain control.
The first
'cause he's
scene in
like-
the movie is him guzzling Jack Daniels,
he's
right?
basically like, I'm not gonna drink right now because when I start,
We're in
I
a
won't be able to
civilized
stop,
setting,
and
yes.
you guys are gonna kick me out of here. And
But
never
something
let
better
me again.
happens, right? She loads up the opium pipe.
Yeah,
Right?
I used to do this for my husband.
Yes,
because he was wounded in the heart.
that's right. They gave him
From the
morphine.
war.
Yeah, they gave him morphine. She says, and then
Well,
she
he
started
was-
taking opium.
It's unclear like how he was killed, but it
Uh-huh.
almost seems like he might have committed suicide.
That's
Because
a good point.
he was like some sort of tortured soul,
Right,
And then she was like, "Oh, I used to prepare this for him,
right.
to deal with his anxiety or whatever, you know?
Yeah, and she says something. It's my favorite part of the movie. She says, you see, there are two of you, one that kills and one that loves. And then she loads the opium for him, and then she like disrobes, and it's interesting because this is great. This is like Vittorio Storaro, the cinematographer, the guy. He did he win? He did. He's one of the Oscar winners.
He was the only one.
Yeah,
that won.
It was best sound editing as well.
Yeah. Sound editing.
The sound though is amazing.
It is.
They
good.
won that for The Doors.
But like, oh my God, Kramer versus Kramer. Fuck you.
Exactly.
Academy Awards.
Fuck you, Kramer versus Kramer.
I mean, my God.
So ridiculous.
I mean, I know it's relatable
as if
to
the
a lot
Oscars
more
mean
people
anything,
about the divorce situation and whatnot, but Jesus.
Totally forgotten.
I mean, nobody's
Has anybody here ever seen Kramer versus Kramer?
Nobody's rewatching Kramer versus Kramer every other year like we do, you know? Like, nobody's doing that. Jesus.
So,
I mean, I think that might have been where the Oscars went off the rails.
Right. Sasheen Littlefeather. Have you seen Norm's?
That probably did it. They were like, oh, Marlon was in it?
Have you seen
you
Norm's
get
version
no
of that?
Oscars.
Norm did that. He gave out an award at the Canadian...
Can we say his full name?
Norm MacDonald. Gave out the... It's because he's my close personal friend. I call him Norm. No, Norm MacDonald did that at like one of the Canadian awards.
Oh my God!
And somebody, they said he's not here.
Probably totally inappropriate though.
It was. They said he's not here to accept awards, so instead we have. And they sent up a chief, and he said,
like with the feathers and everything.
Yes, and the guy said,
like a huge.
He said, "You're standing on sacred ground. This theater stinks of blood."
Oh my God!
Yes. So,
oh wow!
Yeah. So
well, that's a tangent.
So okay. So what happens with the lady is one of the things that the way the scene is set up is that she disrobes and she's standing on the other side of the mosquito netting.
Yeah.
Right. And so she's like ghost-like, but it's also like there are two of them that are separated by this thin boundary, and that plays into the first of all. Later, when they meet Dennis Hopper, he talks about dialectics, right? You either love somebody or you hate them, and
so
that's
we'll go to it.
That's when Kurtz.
But finish your thought.
Well,
yeah,
that's
says
and that's when she repeats the line. She says, "One of you that kills and one of you that loves." But she says in Willard, the two you are both.
Yeah.
So we know that Willard is going to survive, right? And we know that from the very beginning. Because of that one line at the beginning of the film. We also know that he represents another side of the coin, if that's what you want to call it, from Kurtz. Kurtz says, "I expected someone like you. What did you expect?"
Right.
And we also have the way that the film is bookended at the beginning and the end is that in the beginning of the film, when we first see Martin Sheen, he's upside down. He's inverted. Right, we see his face upside down, and then that fades at the end of the movie. We see his face, and we see Kurtz, and then that goes to the Cambodian idol, the stone idol, at the temple.
Man,
right?
He loved the dual exposure.
Yes,
big fan of that.
Yeah, the dissolve. Is it a dissolve? Is that what it is? It's a dissolve into this God man.
I mean, I think it's like a double exposure where you just lay the film over each other, you know?
Yeah.
You're just doing it.
So then that's the end of and we were talking about the French plantation scene as like exposition, and that's probably one of the reasons. At this point in the film, by the way, in the filmmaking process.
Well, granted, he was, I think also like.
The studio had cut funding.
Granted, I don't know what the timeline was of like when everything was filmed.
Yeah.
So, it's possible that was filmed earlier on than later.
Yeah, I don't know what it was either.
But there's a lot of exposition about like why the war happened and like what's going on and blah blah blah.
Yeah, it does give
the French problems before the war actually happened and doing all that stuff and just you know by the time it reached the theaters, it's like we know what happened. Mm-hmm. Everybody knew. Yeah. Everybody knew that the war was pretty much a bad idea.
And you have a 3.5 hour movie at this point.
Yeah.
Right. And the other thing is that at this point in the filmmaking process, the studio had completely cut funding, and Coppola had to he dumped $7 million of his own money into the production, and then he mortgaged his house and his winery, right? Coppola Vineyards.
Also, bad wine. Not good.
Really?
Really not good. I'm just going to throw that out there. It's really not
I don't
that
drink
great.
wine. Only cognac.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But it's not... There's a reason why Martin
Right.
Sheen doesn't want to drink wine in that
You
movie.
think they funded
It's because he kept getting fed that bullshit wine from
you think they funded
Scorsese.
Coppola's Deli in
I mean,
Richmond? Shout out to Carytown.
I mean, I don't know. He was just trying to get away with the fact that his name was Italian.
Right.
And they thought it would be good. It's
Right.
not good.
Oh, and yeah, I'd never noticed before this latest viewing that when they go into the French plantation, the kid, they have like the child, there's a child there with a Philippine tutor, and they have him reciting a poem before dinner, and the poem is Baudelaire. They're reciting Baudelaire. And,
right, yeah.
And they say,
there we go.
And then the guy explains, he says it's Baudelaire that he's reciting, and it's cruel.
It's a cruel... Yeah,
Yeah,
okay,
he says it's cruel, but they need to learn that the world is cruel. Nature's cruel, Starls. You see all those vines twisting around? Remember in the Thin Red Line? You see those vines twisting around everything?
All right, Alex.
Swallowing everything up?
All right, Alex.
I
Calm
know that's
down.
Nick Nolte.
Oh, that's Nick Nolte?
Yes. Yeah.
You're Alex
Nature's
and
cruel,
McNulty.
Starls.
I can't decipher between the two.
They are similar in a way, their voice. So after the French plantation is where they come up to. That's when Chef is killed before that, and that's a scene.
No, Chef is killed.
Oh no, I'm sorry, not Chef. Mr. Clean.
Yeah,
Because they have the burial at the plantation, and actually that is straight out of Heart of Darkness, because that's when the little the little native arrows are crossing the boat, and Chef says they're just little toys, they're toy arrows, and then a spear. Somebody throws a spear.
No, Martin is saying that. Captain Willard is saying like, "Hey, they're just toys."
It's not Chef.
No.
Lance is the one who takes the arrow and puts it in his hat.
Well, they're asking Lance
Right.
to actually shoot at the people, and
Right.
he's like busy like doing paper mache with their arrows.
So what's the deal with Lance?
Like-
Because Lance,
well, Lance
it's
is
only
the guy.
Lance. So
Lance is the only. Well,
so
we'll get to
Willard-
it. We can't
Willard
we can't
has-
spoil the end.
Well, Willard-
Although there have been a lot of spoilers. By the way.
yeah, fuck it. Who hasn't? I mean, yeah.
Okay.
Willard has his fool, which is Lance, right? And Kurtz has his fool, which is Dennis Hopper, the photojournalist.
Yeah.
And both fools on the opposite sides survive.
Yes.
We know Lance survives for sure. He's like not even in the world.
I want
at
to
this
see these
point.
photos from Hopper's character, by the way. Those
Oh,
are like
yeah.
great photos.
Those are Pulitzer Prize winning
Oh, my
photos
God.
for sure. Yeah,
Oh my God.
yeah.
Like a militia of like indigenous people
Yes.
painted in white.
He
with
is.
heads hanging out on the steps to the entranceway of the guy's house.
How's he going to keep the film from getting spoiled, and where's he going to develop it? I guess
He had so many cameras, by the way.
right.
He had
a lot
4
of cameras. Yeah.
on his chest.
He was like, "Look, man,
I'm a photojournalist.
look, man.
Like, you look like
my
it,
name
but
is
like-
photojournalist. Just give me 3 cameras and a
3
Montagnard
cameras.
shirt, man."
He had 3 cameras.
He is the photojournalist of all time. Like,
God.
if you're ever going to have an archetypal photojournalist in a movie, it's going to be this character.
Yeah.
Zap him with your sirens, man. Zap him with your sirens. So they keep going upriver, and Willard remarks, because they see a downed plane, and then they see dead soldiers. They try to call it as if they're going to go do anything about it, because now they're in Cambodia or whatever. And he says, we keep getting closer to Kurtz because there's more death. They're going down this, like, into the ninth
Going
circle.
into the heart.
Right, into the heart of darkness. And when they get there, they see that Kurtz already knew more about what he was going to do than I did. And they're there waiting for them in force. There's like 1 million like canoes. There's all the locals. They're all up. Like, it's a huge scene. They're in a stone temple. And Chef even remarks on the fact that There's fucking pagan idolatry everywhere, man. And in the beginning of the film, they had remarked on it must be tempting amongst these natives to have them worship you like a god, right? Without any accountability. And Chef remarks on that like pretty much right away. And they meet Dennis Hopper, who is the photojournalist, who is like the fool. He's like King Lear's fool, who says to zap him with your sirens, man. I'm an American, right?
Why is zapping them by the sirens gonna get them away?
They're scared of because they are the
indigenous,
exactly, and
because they don't even know music,
right? And because this is the incursion into the heart of darkness of the modernists.
They were as like
right
deep as you can get,
right? Yes, and here comes like, the stranger.
It's like taking a snapshot with them with a flash on. They're gonna scatter.
That's right.
Yeah.
So even though they are armed and don't say, I mean, they are armed as hell.
There's also like multiple, aside from Colby. You see,
there's a bunch of dudes,
massive dudes that are like part of like whatever his mission was.
Right. Yes.
They're all kind of in it.
Those are loyalists, right?
Like, there's a huge guy in the background with like a fucking massive gun.
Yeah, they're all armed to the teeth.
Yeah.
And they say, "Can we talk to Colonel Kurtz?" You don't talk to him, man. You listen to him. The man
speaks poetry.
Reads poetry out loud, man, and a voice. He's a poet warrior in the classic sense.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's what they're trying to say without saying it. Right?
I'm a little man, man. He's a big man.
Do they say poet warrior?
He does. He says he's a poet warrior in the classic sense. Yeah. And he says, I'm just a little man. I'm a little man. I'm a pair of ragged claws sculling across floors of silent seas. So Dennis Hopper, the photojournalist, quotes T.S. Eliot and Rudyard Kipling, like, interspersed with his own dialogue, because he's just repeating what Kurtz has pronounced to them, right?
Right.
And then later, of course, we'll see Kurtz in his compound reading The Hollow Men by T.S. Eliot, and
reciting it.
Yeah.
Not reading it.
No, he's reading the text.
Oh, is he?
Yeah, he's reading the text, and they show there's a shot of the books that he's reading, and he's got. The one he's got J.G. Frazier's Golden Bough, and he's got Jesse Weston's From Ritual to Romance. And they have Ritual to Romance in there because that is T.S. Eliot's source for The Wasteland. And, of course, this is The Wasteland, right?
Right.
And The Hollow Men, he reads The Hollow Men because the epigraph to The Hollow Men is from Conrad, Mr. Kurtz, He Dead, which is interesting.
Yeah,
right. A little bit of a little bit of anachronism there, I guess.
So, well, what's nice about those shots is like there's little room for interpretation of why they did.
Right.
He purposely did that. It's not just us saying like,
right.
Oh, this might be because of this.
Yeah.
He purposely shot those specific books.
Yes. Yeah. The details in the film are amazing in terms of I'd never noticed before that the first time we see Chef, he's on the boat reading Nexus. Is it Nexus or Plexus or Sexus? It's one of the Rosie trilogy by Henry Miller. He's reading Henry Miller, which speaks to his character, by the way, because he's this New Orleans decadent or whatever. And so what happens is he says the heads, man, the heads. Sometimes he goes too far because the compound is surrounded by heads, and that's in the Heart of Darkness, by the way. Kurtz's compound in Heart of Darkness is surrounded by heads.
On stakes.
That's right. On pikes.
Heads.
Yeah.
On pikes.
And that
surrounding the complex.
But that speaks to the sort of. I mean, we just did The Prince and the Pauper, and it's even in that, right? Because of it's in Macbeth. The heads on pikes on Tower Bridge.
It's supposed to send a message.
It's sending a message, right? It's sending a weird message of like sort of pseudo or quasi royalty
because of the whole Phoenix thing,
right?
Like
do
not enter, do not fuck with me.
So the part about the Phoenix program in this, and again, I think that's why Scott Glenn's character is named Colby, is because the Phoenix program is basically about. We talked a little bit about hearts and minds, and one of the things that happens with Kurtz is. The first time that when Willard first appears on the scene at the compound, and he goes in, you notice that the natives surround him. There's a downpour. They take him and they invert him and they dip him in the mud, and so it's this sort of like weird inverse baptism because the camera does a 360, and it's a baptism into Kurtz's way of life at the compound. And it ends with the apotheosis of Kurtz. It ends later on with the apotheosis of Kurtz because he's assassinated at the same time as they sacrifice this sacred cow. And we see the dissolve into the Cambodian structure with the godlike character. But one of the midpoints in terms of the Phoenix apotheosis is that Phoenix program is that Kurtz makes his final statement to Willard without having spoken to him, really. No, he speaks to him, and then he's locked in the cage. And this is like this is what happened in Phoenix program, is that he confronts him in the cage, and he's chopped off the head of his decapitated chef, and he places the head in his lap. And this is the sort of, Mangala-esque trauma bonding that was taken on by Phoenix program as part of their hearts and minds to shatter the population or whoever the object of this is. And this is also taken from Lansdale. Remember, it talks in the Phoenix program about how they were having trouble controlling the casualties they were taking on because the VC were capturing Marines, etc., on the trails. So what they decided to do, what Lansdale and Colby decided to do, was use one of Kitson's techniques of using a local superstition. And so what they did was they would set up a unit, like a 2-man unit on a trail, wait for VC to walk by. They would snatch the last guy, get information from him, puncture him in the neck, stab him in the neck twice, hang him upside down on a trail, and then put a note in Vietnamese on the guy and wait for the VC to come back and find their man. And the note essentially said, we had a depiction of the Phoenix bird on it, and a note that said, this man is now wandering in hell, because in Vietnamese, in their local religion, there's a vampire, and if you are caught by this vampire,
I'm getting in there.
If you were caught by this vampire character, you would be sentenced to everlasting wandering, and you wouldn't make it to the afterlife. And so their whole point was with Phoenix program, and this is what Kurtz does essentially, is this happened with the LRPs, the Long Range Reconnaissance Patrol, with SOG, with MACV-SOG, with certain Marine groups, and with Green Berets, is that they would send them out, and their point was to destroy the population through a computerized techno war. So what they would do, it talks about it in the beginning of the book. They would find through torture names. They would take a name. They would go to the person's house. They would bust in the door, and they'd say trick or treat. They'd kill everybody in the house, and if there was one person still living, they would take them to a torture center. John Stockwell, the CIA station chief, talks about. They would take him to one of their locations, a torture center. They would desensitize them. They would get every name that they could out of the guy. Didn't matter if the person actually did anything or not. It didn't matter. And then they would take those names, put them into a computer, and then they would go to those people's houses. And when they asked Colby, it was in the church hearings, they asked Colby about how many people survived Phoenix program detention. He said, first of all, they said, what are the casualties? And the casualties, as reported, of course, America, we lost, 55,000, KIA. And they said, how many Vietnamese, what are the Vietnamese numbers? And he said, over 1 million. They said, how many people were in Phoenix detention? And he said, I don't know, it was tens of thousands of people. And they asked him, how many people survived Phoenix torture and detention? And he said, 0. Not a single person. So the whole point was the absolute annihilation. And this is what Kurtz talks about in his monologue. He says, he's introduced in Darkness. He's in VC Black, right? And he says that they don't understand basically warfare, and there was a point at which he was with a group, and they came across a group of KIDS, and they inoculated them for polio. They went back, and the VC had hacked off the arms, and there they were, just a pile of little arms, and he wept like some grandmother.
This is a pile of arms.
And I realized, like I was shot with a diamond bullet right through my forehead, and I thought, my God, the genius of that, the will to do that, pure, crystalline, complete, right?
Yeah. Crystalline. Which I really appreciated, the word.
Crystalline, yes. And he says, if I had 10 divisions of those men, this war would be over very quickly. Men who were normal men, who were moral men, but who are willing to kill without judgment, right, is what he says. And that is Phoenix Program. That is exactly what that is. He doesn't want... Now, that's not all Phoenix is, because obviously from Program to Kill, Dave McGowan's Program to Kill, we know that a lot of people that were chosen for this, especially LERPs and solo missions, what they did is they took people who were, especially young men, who were in prison for violent crimes.
Yeah.
And they said, hey, look, you go to we'll train you. We'll give you weapons. We'll give you whatever you want. We're going to let you go to Southeast Asia. And you just go out and just be just absolute mayhem.
Reap havoc.
Come back with skulls and heads and ears. And, we'll make you a hero, right? And then the question is, what happens when you send those people back?
There's just such a fallacy in that, right? Like, from all the modern wars that I've loosely studied, and I don't want to say them.
Yeah.
But the worse you make it on the population, I don't think it has that effect, right?
What do you mean?
It makes more people upset.
Yes.
And ingrained. And that's kind of the fallacy about the whole thing.
You mean in terms of,
like,
if
you just can't scare people to death and subside.
Well, you can scare them to death if you intend on annihilating them.
Well, completely.
Right.
That's what the bomb is for.
Well, that's what. Okay, so one of the things that brings up is that the movie starts with the napalm.
Carpet bombing.
Yeah, the carpet.
It's a carpet bombing of a serene, nice, palm tree ridden oasis.
So
whatever.
So that plays into a few different things, because what they did was basically they were like, all right, look, we got these. On the one hand, they're like, all right, look, these guys are dug in too deep. We can't get them out of the jungle. So how can we do this? We can either send guys in, or we can just get rid of the jungle.
Right.
Then they'll stand out.
Yeah.
Also, by the way,
but what they didn't know was that
Lockheed
there was a lot more jungle.
Well, they're like, Lockheed's really going to like this, because they're going to have to make a bunch of shit. Right.
Yeah.
And so that was Operation Ranch Hand. That's where all the Agent Orange shit comes from.
Right.
Because Operation Ranch Hand was, Nixon approved this. They were like, we're going to make shitloads of napalm and Agent Orange, and we're going to just we're going to defoliate. We're going to just get rid of the jungle, right? so yeah.
People were like, all of it?
Yeah.
It was like, yeah, we'll try. But they're like,
and they're
all of it?
And they're like,
there's a lot of it.
And they're like,
there's so much jungle.
They're like, by the way, we got these. Don't worry, it's called Agent Orange, which sounds, that's not too bad. Orange isn't so bad. Just handle this. Don't wear any gloves or a mask, by the way.
Yeah, just go in there after the fact.
Oh wait,
it kills.
You feel
everything.
You feel like you're itching on the inside a little bit.
It kills everything, but just feel free to go into the would have been forest and go there.
Don't worry, that itch on the inside, that's nothing.
Oh God.
Oh, your fingers don't work.
Oh my God.
Oh yeah, your limbs are falling off.
Oh.
Don't listen,
man. It has nothing to do with us.
Yeah, you won't feel the effects of this. By the way, sign these documents.
It has nothing to do with us.
Yeah. You won't feel the effects of this for a good 30 years, right? Shouts out to Nick Brady out there, TGF, for that $10 donation. Appreciate you, homeboy. Boom. Thank you so much. And shouts out also to Jason Skull, who sent me a $5 donation on PayPal earlier today. I appreciate you. Yes, listen, you guys, please send in those super chats. All right, I need them. I'm trying to get a camera here, right?
Yeah, and
I'm trying to get some.
And lighting.
Yes, and some.
Lighting is really necessary.
Yes, because
can you imagine Kubrick filming it on your laptop like this?
Right.
Wouldn't have been quite
now,
the same.
don't give away my trade secrets
Wouldn't
here.
have been quite the same.
Yes, yes,
been
I'm
quite
on
the
it.
same.
Yes, please look at those links that Jethro has just dropped for my Cash App, for Venmo, for PayPal. You can listen if you're looking at the video right now. Click on the video description, that little arrow button. It goes down, and the first thing you see is the donation links. Click on that. I will
Shout
give
out
you
to Jethro, right?
I will give you a shout out. Yes, shouts out to Jethro, my homeboy out there. Shouts out to Nick Brady, TGF, to Jerry, Exposing Powerful Lies, to all my homeboys out there. Thank you so much for being here. Yeah, are y'all having fun?
We're about to get to the last quarter of the movie.
We're getting to the last quarter of the movie.
Of a 3-hour movie?
Yeah.
We're almost there.
We've skipped a lot.
We skipped so much that we want to go back to.
We skipped so much.
There's going to be a second podcast of this
Yeah.
just to cover the things we missed.
So, yeah, the Halloween lights are still on. Can you see them? Yeah, there's the Halloween lights. Is that a little better? Here, let's fix it. There we go. That's a little better.
Okay.
Fix the angle with my expensive camera laptop here. All right. Shouts out to Kristen at Slowboy Whiteboard. Yeah. Shouts out to my sister. Shouts out to my sister out there. Don't say her name. Shouts out to my sister. I love you out there. Yo.
She's still single?
Yes. You're
right. Oh my God. She's going to love that, huh?
Right.
Oh
yes. Shouts out to my sis out there. I love you.
But if you are still single, I'm traveling south
okay.
after this.
All right. So, now listen, that's okay, because this is my homeboy right here. All right. So,
I didn't say anything.
So, Brando. So we should talk about Brando and
God.
how he got into this film. Like, what's his role in the film?
Well, obviously, Coppola wanted Brando.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And he'd already worked with him before.
Yeah.
I mean, I think he had to pull kind of being nothing. When in Godfather, I don't think he had that much pull.
Right.
So he was just like, Godfather, yes. It's got to be Brando.
Yeah.
And so when he made this, and he's there's so much hype about this character you're about to see.
Yeah.
Who else is it going to be in his mind? It's got to be fucking Brando.
And that's part of the literary, aspect of the Heart of Darkness aspect. I mean, I remember on the AP Lit exam, one of the questions was about a literary one of the literary tropes in specific works of literature where you have an entire book about a character who doesn't show up until a small part of the work, right? And that's what happens with Heart of Darkness. You don't actually see Kurtz until the end.
Yeah.
In Apocalypse Now, they take that. And part of that, obviously, is the fact that Willard, like in terms of the narrative, Willard or Marlowe learns all this stuff about Kurtz, right? He's got all this information. He's supposed to get inside his head. But none of it really matters because when he gets there, Kurtz already knows more about him than he does, right?
Or he already knows who is going to be sent against him.
He does.
He's going to be this type
He knows there's going to be a mission.
Because he's him.
Yeah. And do you think
He's him.
Do you think that...
He's a younger version of
He
him.
is.
That he knows is going to come get him.
He's either a younger version or he's just another side of his psyche, I suppose.
Yeah.
He's doing the exact same thing that Kurtz would do. In
he's
fact, he
following
welcomes
him.
it.
We're not getting there yet. We'll talk about him in the later...
Here's a question. Do you think that Kurtz... Because the first time that we're introduced to Kurtz, we hear Kurtz has been up there gone native and he's podcasting from the jungle. Yeah. And you brought up earlier,
like doing some sort of Jane Fonda thing.
Yeah,
where he's like, hey,
he's up there. He's got his podcast, and he's broadcasting into the wilderness. And the first thing that we hear of him,
recruiting all these natives.
He is, and he says, "A snail crawling along the edge of a straight razor. That is my dream. That is my nightmare. Crawling along the edge of a straight razor and surviving." And you brought up that is Willard.
That's him.
Yes, that Willard is...
That's him. He's crawling up through the river.
Yes. Crawling up the river along this razor edge.
And surviving.
And he survives.
And he's going to kill him.
Right.
Because who else can do that?
That's right. And the second thing we hear is when he talks about they lie. they lie to us, those nabobs. He says, they lie to us, and if there's one thing that Kurtz hates, it's the stench of lies, right? And that's...
He makes that very clear.
He wants absolute truth. He says, he was... so one of the things in the dossier...
That's what he's trying to get out of him.
Yeah, and
he's trying to get out of Willard. He's like, I know why you're here. It's not classified anymore.
It's not classified.
I know why you're here. You're here to kill me.
Are you an assassin?
You're here to kill me.
Are you an assassin?
It is interesting, though.
I'm a soldier, sir.
You're
neither.
Why do you think that he just allows him to kill him?
Because I think that's, in terms of figuratively, that's his apotheosis, but in terms of literally, I don't know. Is it the end of his mission?
I think he's done what he's done.
I think it's because...
He's passed it on to another guy.
He talks about killing...
He's passed it on to another guy, and I think maybe at some point he kind of knows he crossed the edge.
He talks about...
You know?
Well...
Like he's done what he's done.
I think that's the culmination of his mission.
He can live with what he's done, but at the same time, he knows he should be killed.
Yes, okay, so two things. I think that he talks about killing without judgment,
we haven't even gotten this part of the book yet, or the movie.
Right. Well,
so we should fast forward.
Okay. So back to Brando for a second. Okay. So here's what happened with Brando getting into the film. So they hired Brando. Brando had the most expensive contract, I think, in film history at that point. He was going to be paid. He demanded $1 million a week. He showed up to the production 2 weeks late. That's $2 million.
I don't doubt it.
When he shows up to the production, he's supposed to be gaunt, like Kurtz is in the book. Instead, he is heavily overweight. He's supposed to be dressed in fatigues, but so they decide, okay, we'll hide him in shadow.
Why would they think he would be gaunt anyways?
They were like, dude, you're being paid and you're going to go on a fitness regimen.
They think they're going to be like, who's that guy who was Batman?
Yeah, they thought he was going to be like Christian Bale working out every day. Instead, he was in Tahiti eating hamburgers.
That's not going to be.
No.
Why would they think that?
No.
That's a ridiculous thing to think about him.
Why would the studio...
I mean, that was before actors, lost 40 pounds.
Well...
You know, that was before all that shit happened.
Well, because the contract said, we're going to pay you ridiculous. The most money ever. So this is for the role.
Good.
And he's like,
I'll still show up on time.
He's like,
kind of.
He's like, I'll send Sashi and Littlefeather instead of me for this film. And so he gets there, and they solve it by putting him in black fatigues, which is a great touch, right? So he's dressed like the enemy, and then they hide him in shadow. But when he got to the Philippines,
he didn't look that bad though.
He didn't.
He didn't look that overweight.
He didn't. He looks like a fucking giant.
Formidable force.
He looks like Judge Holden in Blood Meridian.
Yeah, he is formidable.
He looks
force.
like a demigod. He's like otherworldly. Yeah. He's huge.
Yeah.
And part of that is because the angle, notice that they never show him below the waist, and also the angles, like there's the scene when he confronts.
Oh, the killing scene is ridiculous.
When he confronts Willard in the cage, and he's in camo makeup. Oh. They're looking at his feet, and then the camera goes up to him, so it's from down below. So he's he's above. He's a godlike character.
Damn why he looks up.
But when he showed up to the set, they said, "All right, so you ready to film?" And he said, "I haven't read the script." And they were like, "All right, what do you think of Heart of Darkness?" "Haven't read it." So for 3 days, he made Coppola. He was like, "You're gonna read the book to me. We'll get in a canoe," and Coppola spent. What's $1 million divided by 3 days?
Oh my God.
He spent 3 days reading Heart of Darkness to him in the canoe. And then when they started filming, he didn't know.
In a canoe?
Yeah, in a canoe. They were in a canoe. They had to be by themselves. And then so Coppola was like, you know what? I don't know how to fucking film this guy. You know? Yeah, so they started.
He's already dealt with them before.
He has. But this was different. And when they got.
He's already gone off the wheels.
Yeah, and when they started filming.
Like Coppola had already given him that stardom.
Yes.
I don't know what he got. I don't know.
Well, he got the performance, right? That's the trade-off, right? All this shit.
Did he get anything for the Waterfront?
He won Best Actor. Yeah, 1954.
On the Waterfront.
Yes,
right?
yeah.
And then
he was nominated for Streetcar Named Desire. Then he won it for On the Waterfront, and then he won it again for The Godfather. And so So
you got best actor or best supporting?
best actor.
You got best actor.
Oh
for
yeah,
that?
yeah, best actor.
He's only in it for 20 minutes.
Best actor, man.
20 minutes he
No,
was in it.
you don't give Brando a best supporting actor.
He was only in it for 20 minutes.
He's in top billing.
Maybe.
He's top billing in Apocalypse Now, and he's in it for fucking 3 minutes, right?
5.
Yeah.
I'll give him 5.
So
the Redux edition.
right. So when they started filming his scenes, Coppola decided to just let Brando talk. Right, and this was the whole thing about.
Oh, right.
He wanted.
This
Brando
is
wanted
great.
to change.
Talk to the audience
Yeah,
here on this
Brando wanted to change the character's name from Kurtz to Lily. My name should be something euphonist like a Lily Lalu. My name is Colonel Lalu. John Milius talks about this in an interview, and finally, Coppola went with it, and finally he was like, "Nah, it's not gonna work." But the scenes where, his scenes where he's in the compound, and Colby is doing Tai Chi in the background, and Willard is there questioning him, were filmed. It was totally improvised. He just let him talk for like 7 hours. Yeah. And that's where you get the, like, I was shot with a diamond and all that stuff. It wasn't scripted.
I think the grocery clerks thing was improvised. No?
Yes, it was. It was improvised. And that is a brilliant line.
Oh, my God.
It's so perfect. It's so perfect because, first of all, are you an assassin? He knows and he says, he counters, no, I'm a soldier. And he says, you're neither, right? Which is the whole dialectic thing, right? No, you're actually neither of these things. You are a total. It's hard to even put it in other words because he is pure grocery clerk, errand boy for your masters back at home. You have no purpose, right?
Sent to collect a bill.
That's right. And yet, he lets him do this, right?
Because it's genius.
Yes.
It's genius.
The
I don't even know
genius.
what was written for him.
Whatever it was, they put
Wasn't as good.
They put it. They put
Wasn't
it.
as good.
They put his script on different like props around the room, and I think at one point they had an earpiece, and they would feed him the lines.
And he was like, no.
And yeah,
No.
they'd be
I'm
like,
not doing that. It's
Yeah.
like, no, that's stupid. I'm
Yeah.
doing my own thing. It's like I read this script by Francis Ford Coppola himself.
right. I think it was at this point that Coppola,
Like the grocery clerk
Coppola tried to
thing.
kill himself. Yeah, he tried to kill himself on the set.
I don't doubt it.
This production had been going on for like
Fed by a handgun from
2 years. Yeah, and then some production assistant like shows up and was like, "Hey, the studio brought a present for you. It's in this box, and it's a revolver."
I could see Marlon Brando
Right.
just handing him the gun and be like, do it. Just do it.
So,
You know? Like, just,
So-
just do it. There is no purpose or mind to anything. Like, go ahead and do it.
what's he
He's
eating?
just like-
What's he eating? Is
I don't know what he's cracking.
they're not
something.
pistachios, but
No, they're like much bigger
Yeah,
like nut
yeah.
things, and
whatever it is,
must be some Vietnamese. Or
whatever it is, it's
Filipino
perfect for the
thing.
movie
Yeah.
because he like holds it in his
He's
mouth,
like,
and then he's like,
"Oh, I don't like the way that broke."
Yeah.
It's like, what?
puts the water on his head, and he pats his
The
bald
way
head.
he just
He's
like,
got this
pats
giant
it.
dome.
The way he just pats his head
Yeah.
too is just so bizarre.
Yeah,
Like, I don't know about you, when I want a fresh,
you don't
like water bath,
You-
like I'm like
you take
doing
it like
this.
that. Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
like doing
You
this.
don't-
And he's like,
pat your head like
so I'm not completely bald,
it is
but like
weird.
he's just like, oh
It is
yeah, that
weird.
feels good.
yeah,
Like what?
yeah. It is
I
weird.
don't know what you're doing, buddy. That's so weird. That is so bizarre to me.
So
Oh yeah, patting my head with water. Wow.
and he's got like
That
he's
that
got a gym
refreshes
towel.
me.
He got a gym towel around his neck.
Oh my god.
Right.
It's like, oh, that refreshes me.
Yeah.
I don't know.
He lifts himself up. He's got like a gym towel, and he lifts himself into the light.
But it's just
Right.
like, it was almost like he was like, okay, I gotta make this guy bizarre as hell.
Yeah,
And this is how he would bathe himself.
right.
He would just pat himself
It's
with
a
water.
weird patting.
Yeah.
Oh, what about the scene with the fist? Right. And he puts his fist in the light and he squeezes it. Yeah, it's the best hand acting I've ever seen. Okay. So what happens?
Might have been going for a hand model at that job.
It's a gigantic hand, isn't it?
Oh man.
Yeah. It's
Yeah, we can get into the weird proportions of him.
Yes.
But
and
yeah.
Willard is like down in the corner.
because I don't know if
Right.
like maybe he did like exercise for
Right.
like 5 years prior
He
to
did.
the on the
did.
waterfront where he's like,
Yeah,
I
that's
got
true. Yeah.
I got hands.
I could have been a contender.
Yeah, I could have been a contender.
Instead of on a one-way ticket to Palookaville. Okay, so then Dennis Hopper comes in and he's reading The Hollow Men. And that's when Dennis Hopper says, he says, "You can't go out into space, man. You can't go out into space. It's dialectic physics, dialectic logic, man. You either love somebody or you hate him." He throws the book at him because he's a fool character. He's like a dog almost.
I don't know if he throws a book or he
He
throws
threw
like
something
a wet
at him.
rag. He's
He
like,
threw a handful of...
You mutt.
Yeah. He throws a handful of weird pistachios.
Like, and then he says, "You mutt."
Yes.
You mutt. And he's just like, and Dennis Hopper's like, I'm
Right.
out of here.
And then Willard goes back to the boat, and he had, he gave Chef, he had given Chef the coordinates for...
No, not. Oh, yeah, it was Chef.
Yeah, he given Chef the coordinates for the airstrike. PBR Street Gang. This is Almighty. Interesting. And Chef never gets to call in the airstrike, of course. They didn't know the location of where the compound was. And then he gives a radio test, but he never gives it because Kurtz comes down, decapitates him. Then, in the Redux version, Willard has changed locations. Now he's inside a shipping container, and Kurtz is surrounded by children.
Oh.
Right? And he reads...
His kids.
Yeah, we're his children, man. We're all his children. And
they showed all the children.
yeah, and he reads an article about the Rand Corporation from Henry Luce's Time magazine. He says you're not under guard.
And
You're under guard.
He gives like volume 9,
Yeah,
episode 11, or whatever.
He's a literary
He gives
man.
like the
yeah.
description. Like,
Yeah.
it's like he's being recorded.
He's a poet warrior in the classic sense, right? He's a literary man. He reads
Yeah.
poetry out loud in a voice, right? And then fast forward to what happens is Willard goes back with some kind of what does he use? It's like a native instrument. It's like not an axe, but it's like some sort of scythe.
Oh my god! Like, it's dude, it's
weird.
Dude, it's the most bizarre.
It is. He's
thing
gonna go
to
chop
kill
down
somebody.
this tree god man, this pagan idol man with this like axe thing, and and Kurtz is in there reading, and he says, that's when he says his line. They train our young men to drop bombs on people, but they won't let them write the word fuck on their airplanes because it's obscene. Yeah, and he hates the stench of lies. And that is the moment where he sees Willard walk in. He stands up. He stands up because, remember the Valkyrie. The Valkyrie, you can't get to Valhalla unless you die with a sword in your hand, right? He dies like a warrior. And he dies at the same moment as they are sacrificing their sacred cow in their ritual outside, right? And he dies in the same. They're using that same instrument to chop the cow, right?
Yeah.
And then we
see the cow emerge from his entrance beforehand.
That's right.
Like it's the cow moving away
Right.
from him down the stairs of his really weird porch.
Right.
Where they already
The
had
angles
all those,
are weird. Like
they had all those heads.
Yeah.
Earlier.
The angles are weird because
the heads are removed.
You walk
but,
into the room where he is, and it's all darkness, and there's like a little platform, and you're like, "What is this?" And it's almost like an altar, and he's sleeping on the altar.
He's staying in some sort of like Aztec temple.
Yeah, it's
bizarre.
Where's Satterfield? He knows about Cambodia. Has he been to Cambodia?
Of course.
What do you call that? He's like in a Phnom Penh Cambodian temple.
Yeah. For sure.
And they've written Apocalypse Now on the wall. And yeah, and Jethro points out it's a real ritual. It was an actual ritual that they did. And also the cow is in another scene.
And was it a cow that they actually did that to?
It was.
It looked fucking real to me.
It was. It was real. And
can't do that.
Remember
now.
the cow earlier in the film?
Can't do that now.
No. And remember earlier in the film when the priest is they're all praying, and it's after the battle, and they're airlifting a cow in the background.
Oh yeah,
right. so okay. So what happens is he assassinates Kurtz, and then Kurtz utters the famous line, which is also the climax of Heart of Darkness: "The horror, the horror."
Which he actually prefaces in the movie, at least, so you kind of get like they kind of walk the audience through that line, right? Like he's talking about the horror, like 15 minutes beforehand,
right?
Being like, you got to brace it, you got to accept it.
Yes,
these are the things,
right? And
then when he's finally come to grips with it, while he's dying, he's looking up into the ether.
So his point is like looking at the truth of the situation, right?
Right.
And those are his final words, like looking into this abyss of horror. And then we see Willard walk out of the temple. All the people bow as if he is their new god man or whatever.
Yeah, he killed
their new pagan god. But he leaves. He takes Lance. He gets on the boat, and they leave. And it fades out, and then we have the credits. And
no credits on the Redux version. No credits.
No credits at all.
Which lends to your thing about the circle.
That's
of
right.
it. There's no credits. Like I don't get to
and
see what
even in the original, there aren't really credits.
No. But at the end, there's no credits.
It's just a fade out into blackness and rain. Yeah.
So I don't even get to see who the key boy grip is,
right?
Or anything.
Oh, we never see that in any of the versions. Yeah, we do know that.
Like,
we do see.
I mean, how pissed are you if you're the key boy grip and you're like, I don't even
if
get
you're
acknowledged
the key boy grip
for this?
Yes.
What the fuck?
Well,
man.
Well, we do see.
How many times
we do
I
know,
like held that boom over
yeah, we
somebody?
get Brando, Duvall. We get Martin Sheen.
They didn't even give him credits.
We do see
at the end of Redux, they don't give anybody credits.
In the original, we see one credit, and that is Carmine Coppola, who is underrated. Carmine Coppola is Francis Ford Coppola's dad, who was a Juilliard-trained flautist, and he's the one who did the underrated and never really talked about score for this movie, which is a synthesizer score. It's a weird synth score in this, which I think speaks to the like sort of otherworldly, surreal kind of techno war aspect of this. What are they saying?
They're telling me all kinds of things.
Yeah,
they're saying like our friend should give us some Cambodia knowledge.
Yeah,
our friend who's actually been there.
Yes. So let's see. So then we have the fade out, and that's it. That's the film. Anything else? Let's see. Let's see if I have any other notes on this.
I mean, the fact that the film. I mean, do we want to talk about like the aftermath of the film?
Yes.
You want to talk about Kramer versus Kramer?
Yeah.
Winning.
Right.
Best Picture for this?
Well,
oh my God.
So why is that? I mean, that's.
I mean, I guess it's a relatable story about divorce in modern America, but
right. Well, look.
Jesus Christ.
Well, look.
You're talking about like. The scope of this film, everything a part of it.
Because the Oscars
the
are
acting,
fucking don't
the
mean
whatever,
shit, right?
Like,
and because if the studio doesn't like what you're doing and you're going to go rogue and renegade just like Kurtz in your own story and you're not going to do what we're telling you, you're certainly not going to be up for an Oscar.
I mean,
you know what? Fuck you. You can go off the Cannes and you can win the Cannes Film Festival because you put the French people in it.
Yeah, reviewing this back again, it was like made me want to become Kurtz. Against whoever is voting on the Oscars at that point.
Yeah.
Like, because there needs to be deep killing.
I mean, right. Well,
I mean, my God. I mean,
Jet
what
says,
other film has been talked about like this?
Jet says, was this the first film with a Moog synth? I mean, or a
Moog
synth score. The score, Carmine Coppola made it all synthesizer, right?
Oh.
And this was before Chariots of Fire in 1981, but that's Vangelis. R.I.P. Vangelis, but that was a Yamaha synth. I don't know, but it was certainly one of the first. The Year of Living Dangerously. Or no. Was it the Year of Living? No. What's Gallipoli? That was 1981. That was synth. It might be. It might be the first. Blade Runner was Vangelis. That was synth, but that was later. This might be the first one. First one that I can think of.
Yeah. It's a rightful Yeah,
But
that's a good point.
yeah. So this film is like, as far as
But I do like how your audience like goes straight to like, isn't this a sin thing?
Yeah.
I love that so much. Because God bless it.
Yeah.
Because I think it's amazing, and I think it should be more involved in topics of conversation.
Yeah.
So credit.
Well,
to
you know
that
who
guy.
would know the
Credit
answer
to that guy to actually bring that up.
You know who would know the
'cause
answer to
that's
that
awesome.
is Paul. Paul would know the answer to
Oh,
that.
Paul might know.
Yeah, he would definitely know.
Paul Bullock.
Yeah.
If you're out there.
He would definitely know the answer to that. So let's see what else.
About the movie?
Yeah.
Oh man, I think just the scope of it, and
Yes.
the size of it, and what it has been done before it.
Right.
Like anything since?
There's no other war
anything
movie.
since that?
Yeah, there's no other war movie that is
Like I'd
so
be kinda
immersive
curious.
and comprehensive.
Well,
That's the
before-
point of it.
Yeah, before CGI, I can't think of some movie that had like a broader fucking scope. than this
Speaking of
movie.
CGI, one of the things we're doing for Spooktober, trademark JD, is we're doing another Coppola movie, which is Bram Stoker's Dracula. Underrated
Okay.
movie, because we're doing Dracula, and we're doing, which is another book, by the
I think
way.
it's also like who was supposed to be what's his name? Oh my god, so blanking right now. Like what is
Gary Oldman, Keanu Reeves.
or Gary Oldman?
Is-
Perfect casting.
Yes.
Um,
I've crossed oceans of time to find
Gary
you.
Oldman, perfect casting. I don't know if that guy's ever made a bad movie.
Well,
If he's in a bad movie, you know who's
I
the
don't-
best part
I
of
don't
it?
like the Churchill
Gary
movie.
Oldman.
I don't like the Churchill movie with Gary Oldman.
Too fat?
Too weird, man. Too weird. But
It's too weird seeing him like that?
no, it's not that. It's what's the deal with Churchill?
He's an odd guy.
I just think, okay, you're gonna have a secretary come in, and I'm gonna be in the bath, like all the time, and I'm gonna be wearing pajamas.
Well, Lyndon
Like,
Johnson
all the
used to
time.
have
That's
like
just
people
weird.
come in and
Also
dictate what
weird.
is in the bathroom.
Also weird, creepy.
That has nothing to do with Gary Oldman, though.
I just
That has your own thing
I
to
just-
do with
I-
Churchill.
That's true. That is
Okay,
true.
so you got your own thing with
I just-
Churchill.
yeah, that's
a
true.
different thing.
Yeah.
That's a different thing.
I did see a TikTok of Gary Oldman dancing as Churchill. Somebody
who's the
talk
guy?
that
I
real
mean, he
quick.
was in,
I don't have TikTok, by the way. Fuck that.
Who's the guy in Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure?
George Carlin?
No,
He's
the
in
main
that.
guy.
He's in
The
Keanu
main guy.
Reeves.
Keanu Reeves.
Yeah.
So what
Keanu
we were talking
Reeves-
about? We were talking about
Keanu Reeves is good in that movie. He's
and,
perfect
and
in Dracula.
I think he was good in that.
Yeah.
I think he
Kinko
could have
Reeves.
been recast at some point, but you know,
Uh,
his like deadpan, like
Yeah.
kind of
but
thing that he does.
But that's
is
because
not great.
But in a way that works because Jonathan Harker is a dumbass.
Yeah.
And by the way, that's another literary work where the main character plays little role. The title character or the main character plays little role in the book. Dracula doesn't show up for like huge sections of the book, and he's really only at the end.
I'm trying to think of other movies. So, oh, by the way, Martin Sheen, best role ever.
Yeah, for
Has he
sure.
done anything other than that?
For sure. Yeah, he was good in.
What?
I mean, before
West
that,
Wing?
Before that, he was in Days of Heaven. He was, you know what he was good in? He was good in what's the Leo movie? Catch Me If You Can. What's the song they sing? My sister will know this.
Oh, he was the dad.
Yes. What's the song they sing?
He was a Southern dad that was like blah, blah.
What's the song? Oh my God! What's the
But I
song?
think that was kind of an ironic character.
It was.
for him.
It was. That's not actually great. I'm just saying it was. It was entertaining.
But like, what else has he been in that you think it'd be great? And audience, like, please
Nothing.
say something.
He was an IRA fundraiser. Did you know that?
Good.
No.
Oh.
No. No.
Boo-hoo.
No.
Boo-hoo with you and your audience.
Let's see. Oh, Ramon Estevez. Ramon Estevez, their other son. Did you know that Martin Sheen's
Emilio?
You know Charles Sheen's real name is Carlos Estevez.
I'm getting back to the point.
know
Like,
that?
what Martin Sheen's best role? Martin Sheen's best role.
Badlands, Days of Heaven, that.
all these much better than that.
This is his best role.
Right?
It's his best role by far. This is Robert Duvall's best role. He's got a lot of good roles.
So
Robert Duvall from VA, by the way.
I'm going to pick apart the movie a little bit now, and everybody can tune out.
Mm-hmm.
So he is a badass special forces guy,
yes.
right? Every time the boat gets shot at, he's ducking for cover and like very confused. Like it's always like a I don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
And the whole time you think like he loves the chaos. They built it up like he loves chaos. He loves
it is a little
the
odd.
war.
Yeah.
And then he's just like, oh my god, I don't know what's going on. Like I'm just hunkering down.
Well, he's no Kilgore for sure. But they couldn't get Kilgore to do that kind of role.
But I just never got it.
Yeah.
But that's my only
he won.
nitpick with this movie, honestly.
He succeeded, I guess. But yeah, I see what you're saying.
With this movie is also once you discover a guy that's covered in blood in the hotel room.
Yeah.
Like, is that the guy you want to go on this top secret mission with?
Yeah, they want him because he's like that because he's in civilization.
Because he's...
Once you put him back in the jungle, he's fine. But in civilization, he's fucked up.
Did they know that? They don't know.
They made him that way.
All they did was find a guy that was like...
That was a ranger.
Hotel room with a bloody sheets all over the place.
There was a ranger who was willing to
they're not like,
kill a bunch of people.
They're not like forgiving it. Like, we got to keep the production going. I know you had a heart attack.
Yeah, but they don't give a shit. He's just an instrument of whatever they want to accomplish.
So what's that happen with the initial heart attack happened on the first scene?
Yes.
Why didn't they hire a different actor?
Because they'd already gotten rid of the other actor.
Yeah, but why wouldn't you get a different one?
And because they were like...
Wait, what is the downtime? What is the downtime from like, this guy had a heart attack. We got to pause filming. Like, what amount of time do you give that guy?
Here's the downtime.
Is it just like a week?
Here's why they kept him. They went, this guy just had a heart attack in the scene, but the scene looked great, man.
We got to keep it.
Yeah.
We're stuck with this guy.
Yeah, because he wanted to keep filming.
We're stuck with this guy.
Yeah,
like,
this guy.
My God.
Yes.
My God.
The way he breaks that mirror is weird.
I mean, it's so weird. And he's like the most, like, that's the weirdest thing about him. Is like, I would never trust him. Like, if I was going to follow somebody into the jungles of Vietnam, the last person... Martin Sheen.
Yeah, but he doesn't have anybody following him.
In the mid-70s.
He has a boat that he's placed with. They have
every
to take
time
him there,
he's going in the jungle,
him.
you follow him.
Yeah.
He like carries a machine gun in one hand.
He does. That's weird.
He's like, I'll follow. I'm gonna go in there. Yeah. It's like, I'm pretty sure you like do this.
Yeah.
Like
he is always
check your
got
scopes.
it with one hand like that.
He's just like,
yeah, that's weird.
This is what I do with my gun. It's like, what?
Yeah.
Are you kidding me? Jesus. Man. That is not how you go into a firefight.
Jeff says they got his brother and shot around the heart attack.
His brother?
Yeah.
Which one?
That's interesting. I didn't know that. Is that right, Jeff? Damn.
Which brother?
Ramon Estevez?
To shoot around the heart
as a
attack.
stand-in.
In what scenes?
I don't know.
That would be weird.
Because it seems like his face is in every scene.
Yeah.
You need his face there. That's crazy.
Yeah, I don't know.
I think,
like, what
Jeff, is that right?
There.
Wow, that's crazy.
I don't know.
No, that makes sense, though. That makes sense.
I mean, there's got to be some filler. Like, you're paying time for all these people to be there.
Yeah.
So you got to do
Well, they
something.
certainly use stand-ins like that. But I don't know. It seems like his face is in every scene. That's crazy. Yeah, Jeff says Martin's bro is stand-in. Yep, that's true.
Oh, because that guy said it?
Yes, because Jethro said it.
Well, right.
He knows.
Well,
he knows Apocalypse
Jethro.
Now. Shouts out to Jethro. And also, shouts out because if you want to sponsor a stream out there, you guys, this is I didn't say this before, but this is a sponsored stream. We do have an anonymous friend of the show who sent in $100 to sponsor this stream. So if you want to sponsor a stream, give me all your money, give me all your watches, give me all your gold watches. I'll put them in the metallurgy, and I'll make you, and I will do an analysis for you. Of course, we wanted to do this because this is the best movie and my favorite movie of all time.
I guarantee if you do it, better lighting next time.
Yes.
Better lighting.
Yes, send me some money.
I will buy him a lamp
Yes.
With your money,
Yeah.
and it will be less spooky.
Less spooky and ghost-like.
Jesus Christ.
Okay.
This thing is like, wow. Like, this is like I swear to God.
Listen, we're
I'm
organic
not holding
here.
you captive.
We're organic here, man. We're
right.
doing this from the ground
Just
up.
so you know,
right?
I'm not holding him captive in some sort of basement lair. We're just having a good time here. But
all right, should we wrap it up here?
if you want to make it look less than so,
All right.
please contribute by pressing. I don't know what.
Press those links.
position.
Drop
This
those
way?
links.
Is it
Yes.
This way?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. Drop those fat checks.
Otherwise, wow.
Let's see. So I guess that's about all we got. I mean,
Do we gotta give a shout out to people?
yeah. Well, let's give a shout out to all our homies. Thank you for being here. I hope you guys had a good laborious day weekend. Shouts out to all of our friends out there. Shouts out to all our IRL friends out there.
IRL.
Yeah. Our in real life
You'll
friends.
tell me
yeah,
that one.
Yeah.
Oh,
Shouts out.
in real life.
Yes.
Oh man.
Shouts out to David.
I don't
Paul,
know any of these things.
Tyler. Shouts out to everybody out there. Shouts out to all of our friends and our homies and everybody who supports the show. Dog saying it's time to go out, and that's about it for Apocalypse Now. I think we got it. So I hope you guys have a good week, and we've had a lot of fun here. So it's about all we got.
The dog
Yeah.
needs to go out.
She needs to go out. Good cue. All right, y'all. Peace. Love you.